All right, King Killers, we're covering chapters 13 through 14 of The Way of Kings in this episode. We're going to cover Dalinar and company versus the chasmfiend, and we're going to check in on Kaladin as he tries to win over Bridge 4. And then we also fill in the details that Sanderson buried deep in the subtext that makes Elhokar much more hilarious. And we talk about how we'd not have a great reaction to being woken up and dragged out of a tent like Kaladin does to Moash. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the King Killer podcast. I'm Dan. Got with me Tim here, fresh off a big move, and you're in, Siberia?
Yep, I was going to the warmth. I hear great things. The experiences of Anton Chekhov have really led me to realize that if you want a real positive life change, Siberia is the place.
Is he the one with the gun?
Yeah, he's the one they wrote, Annie Got a Gun. It's about Anton Chekhov. Yeah,
Annie's got a gun.
Yeah, and Annie, Go Get Your Gun. And what was the Michael Jackson one? I don't even know if he says Annie in the song, but it sounds like it.
I don't know what song you're talking about. Smooth Criminal?
Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, shit.
Jeez.
I guess I should put that on asleep. But yes, anything with Annie and guns, it's all Chekhov. Chekhov started all that shit, right? He's the originator of guns, period.
Yeah, it's real popular in books and movies. People talk about, like, that's Chekhov's gun, even when they're not even describing a gun sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's metaphorical, right?
Yeah, it's a metaphorical gun. I don't get it.
You don't get it?
No, I don't get it because it doesn't seem like a gun either way, metaphorical or foracle.
Or foracle. Okay. Yeah, well, it's a representation of a pivotal moment, right? Yeah.
Well, let's get an update on where you're at in the books.
The last Shallan basically is in the group there with Adolin and his father, and now Kaladin. So they're all basically, Kaladin's looking out for Adolin and his father. He's like bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
Him and his elite group of Bridge 4. And Shallan basically came into the group just a moment ago. And the last chapter, the most recent chapter that I was on, it went back to her youth where her father's still around. And she's basically a guy that knew her older brother came into town. There's some real suspect shit going on with it, which I haven't seen. I haven't got far enough to see what the resolution of those things are. But he asked her if she has her own spren. And she's like, why would someone have their own spren? He's like, you don't have somebody talking to you? And he's like, she's just completely in the dark about what he's talking about. But clearly he sees something in her. It seems, right?
I don't remember that part. Was you sure that wasn't like Hoyd or Wit? That
I don't know who it is. That's the thing. I don't know who the guy is yet. Basically, it's some guy that came back and shared some information with Shallan's father. Shallan's father got fucking pissed and was like, I don't want to hear about my oldest son. He's not my son anymore. Now you can call the other ones non-Balat, and he gave them other names, basically ridding the family of the oldest son, the eldest son. And that's just what they're talking about. So, like I said, I'm like in the middle of that chapter, I think I'm in the middle of the chapter, so I don't really know who the phantom figure is yet. It would make sense that it would be somebody like Hoyd. That's actually would be really cool. So maybe that's what it is, but find out.
I can't remember. I honestly don't remember that aspect. I remember like someone coming to see his father. I just don't remember that part of like someone asking her about if she's got her own spren.
Yeah, and then with Kaladin, Moash just basically revealed that he wants to kill, and he was trying to kill Elhokar or Elhokar. Elhokar is a place, right? Elhokar is the guy, the king.
Elhokar is the king. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was basically just revealing that, and Kaladin's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" You know, blah blah blah. They're basically talking it out. So those are like the last things that I can remember that I read like today.
Yeah, there's some great. I like I like the parts with when Shallan gets to the Shattered Plains and runs into Kaladin for the first time.
Oh yeah, takes
fucking
his
jacks his fucking boots.
Yeah, who's she with? The chick's name?
I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Yeah, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah, it's well, and then like her back and forth with Adolin, she's being herself, like kind of the self that you see in the beginning that we talked about. How she's real coy, she's really pedantic about language and trying to be like super clever and everything else. It's pretty great shit. The way that she's introduced to that world, and she seems to strike quite a figure. They like her, how exotic she looks. Adolin immediately is like, whoa.
Yeah, they dig them fucking soulless gingers.
But yeah, she definitely strikes her look stands out to everyone around. And then, dude, she's also, it's really interesting reading her because in her mind, we're like, she's always like, am I really going to do this? And then she just fucking goes all out. You know, she got a lot of influence, obviously, from, shit.
Jasnah?
Yeah, Jasnah. Jasnah had a massive influence on her because for a large part of where they diverge from one another, she's channeling Jasnah. She's like, what would she do? It's a lot of what would Jasnah do? How would she handle this? How would she carry herself? It's a lot of lessons that she picked up from her that are fueling her rise throughout the world and her ability to keep storming through doors. It's pretty great seeing her and being able to read through her, like her evolution as an individual is really satisfying.
Yeah, the opening for her in book 2 is pretty great because like, and then her meeting up with Gaz and Tavlakov. So you get the reintroduction of those two fucking characters, and then the when she goes and she gets the group that Gaz is with to join her to help fight off some guys, and she's like coming, using like light weaving to make herself look like a fucking, queen. And then they, once the side effect is off of her, then all of a sudden, she looks, they see her as like, hold on, you're like a fucking little girl in fucking torn up rags.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to read that. That would be really cool to see visually, because the way they do describe it is like, wait, why did I think this chick was like, some regal figure? Like it's pretty cool to see that transition. And then again, that's a great example of how she just carries herself and runs roughshod over these people, like telling them what to do, and they're like, we're not doing this, and she just doesn't back down.
Yeah, that stuff's great. Her opening to book 2 I like a lot. I like most of her stuff in book 2. Pretty solid. And Kaladin stuff's great too, with him, trying to experiment with his powers and that kind of stuff, and just get the evolution, and then the stuff you're getting to with Kaladin and Moash is great too.
Yeah, so far book 2 is great, man. It's interesting because in book 1 you have a lot of that Kaladin backstory, and it seems to be replaced with Shallan's backstory much more so. At least that's the impression I'm getting from Oathbringer in book 2. At least that's the impression I'm getting. I kind of
from Oathbringer. Oathbringer's a third book.
Oh, what's book 2?
Words of Radiance.
Oh yeah, Words of Radiance. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of had a speed bump over the last couple weeks. So it's kind of the progression in my mind is slowed a bit, but so far it's been great. I like it a lot. Picks up from book 1 in a great way, and learning more about Shallan's advancement and what's Adolin's mom? What's her name? The one that Dalinar's shacking up with?
That's not Adolin's
no, that's Elhokar.
Elhokar's mom, Navani.
Yeah. Navani Kholin. So, yeah, and you're seeing, or at least I've been seeing a lot more of the influence that Yasna and Navani they've had on the world, like inventions and things of that nature, and that they're a huge part of the advancement of the society itself. And the fact that Shallan's kind of fitting in with that legacy is what I seem to be seeing play out. It's pretty cool.
Well, we will be jumping into chapter 13 on this one, and chapter 13 is titled 10 Heartbeats. And in this one, we get the second half of the introduction to Dalinar and Adolin and Elhokar and the crew as they now are fighting the chasmfiend.
Yeah, pretty badass. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it starts off too. Like I like once you know that it's Hoyd in the beginning or Wit in the beginning. This is a letter from him. Then like you could see his personality in it. I realize that you are probably still angry. That is pleasant to know. Much as your perpetual health, I have come to rely upon your dissatisfaction with me. It's one of the Cosmere's great constants, I should think. It's like a great 100% a Wit line.
It's a great troll line. It's a tremendous response to like an angry spouse. Somebody that's angry with you. Just be like, I'm really glad to hear that. This is what keeps me going.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Wit.
It's like my the bedrock of my life. I can always count on your fucking disdain.
That's funny. Yeah, it's funny. I kind of had been mentioning that. It reminds me of something that I've been mentioning lately to people in my circle. When I was working at a particular job and they'd hire somebody new, and they know I've been there for a while, so they're like, hey, they're like all worked up about something that they have to handle, and what I would always say is, well, first thing, have you panicked? Because that's step one. You panic first. And it always got them to be like, they kind of react like kind of pissed, like, wait, what? And then they'd chill the fuck out because it's like, you're panicking. Calm down. It's all going to be okay.
One of the things I really count on in life is when people panic, like to fucking just ramp it up even more, to go higher, to panic more than them.
I'm in a brand new house, and when I was here for like a day, a guy came to the door, and I answered the door, and he goes, "Hey, are you on the electrical yet?" I'm like, I don't know. I have tons of appointments with all these different people I'm supposed to meet up with, so I wasn't sure. And he's like, "These guys next door, there's like people working on a home next door, and they're plugged into my electrical." So I was thinking it would have been great if I had like a pistol and I just grabbed it. I was like, you know what? Let's go get these fuckers. Yeah. Let's go. Right now. You, me, we got them.
Hand him like 3 shotguns. Hey, here. Fucking,
let's go get them.
This way you don't have to worry about reloading.
Who is it? These guys? Is it these guys?
Shoot first. We can't risk it.
When in actuality, I'm not paying for the electrical, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't run out of electricity because they're running drills off the side of my house. But I love the idea of a complete overreaction because this guy's way of presenting it to me. Like, oh, okay, let's go get him. Hand him a bat or a chainsaw. It'd be like one of that Pulp Fiction scene, right? Where you like, go through a bunch of different weapons and be like, let's go get these fuckers.
Anytime I move into a new neighborhood, I try to go to every neighbor's house and make sure that I have a weapon with me in sight for them to see, just to kind of set the expectation for my existence in their neighborhood.
Great way to set the tone.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, like, my neighbors do not talk to me. I don't.
Only when I move do I wear an actual chain, like Junkyard Dog. I wear a chain around my neck, and I carry a metal baseball bat on my shoulder. And just walk around.
And like with a pit bull that is just like frothing mad and not on a leash. You just got the dog by the collar and it's like jumping, trying to fucking get at the person.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, definitely a good way. That's my dog. I wouldn't pet him.
Yeah, he's not big on people, especially kids. You don't have kids, do you? Yeah, you can rip their head off.
Yeah, like the last neighborhood I was in, that's why I moved. A neighbor knocked on the door and I opened it. Dog fucking just ran out. Fucking kind of ate him. Ate his foot.
Kinda?
Yeah.
Kinda.
So just giving you a heads up, if you come to my door and I open it, the dog might eat your foot.
Yeah, so just be careful.
Yeah.
You know, don't be an asshole.
Yeah. But so at the beginning of this chapter, we get the 10 heartbeats, and I like this, the way that it starts off here with the 10 heartbeats. 1, that was how long it took to summon a shard blade. If Dalinar's heart was racing, the time was shorter. If he was relaxed, it took longer. 2, pulled his helm on as he ran. 3, I like the way that it does that, where you got him getting into motion, starting to get going, get running after this thing, and you see, it's a nice way to kind of set the pace of the scene, and that anxiety you would have as you're like fucking, you can't just like pull your sword at your fucking belt. You have to like hold your hand out for fucking 10 seconds and wait for this thing to appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a great way to describe and kind of put you in the seat of the individual. And dude, it doesn't matter if your heart's racing as fast as it ever has. That's still a long 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just picturing like, someone about to attack you, or being in this situation with this thing attacking people, and you're waiting on this thing to show up. It almost feels like, when you're in the elevator and you hear like the music. You're just sitting there like, well, anytime now, any day now. Only, there's a massive, how would you describe this thing? It's like a massive crab.
Yeah, like a crab, a crustacean, like something like not necessarily like exactly like a crab, but similar to a crab.
And one of the things in my mind that I have to remind myself, and it helped here, he describes it has 4 wicked foreclaws set into broad shoulders, each claw the size of a horse.
Yeah, so I mean that gives you an idea how massive it is.
Yeah, it's fucking huge. So that's the 4 foreclaws, and then it has a dozen smaller legs clutching the side of the plateau. So it's like a spidery crab. I guess it is a lot like a crab. It's just freaking massive as hell. And the biggest problem that they have here, it's not like, bullfights. Similar to this, typically they would weaken the thing, like hit it with a bunch of arrows and shit. It sounds like they would like kind of run up on it and stab it and tire it out, or they give it drugs.
Yeah, they have arrows that like Sadius is firing. Like that, you have to have shard plate to shoot those kind of arrows, and so they just pepper it with those arrows.
Well, it sounds like typically the chasmfiend is following food of sorts, so it's kind of kept docile while they just unload on it with arrows.
Yeah, they're hitting it from a distance. Like they're not getting up close and personal until it's already weakened and almost dead.
Yeah, so the biggest flaw here is they haven't weakened it, and as they're trying to weaken it, then it goes apeshit. Like any other animal, if once it's on death's door, that's going to get that last burst of stamina, which is like its biggest reserve, and they got to face that shit. head on. But yeah, yeah. It's so again, facing this type of an ordeal and waiting on your shard blade to show up, pretty rough. You know.
Yeah, and you get Dalinar, like, the archers drew, Elhokar yelled orders just in front of Dalinar, his blue cape flapping. Dalinar's hands tingled with anticipation. 10. His shard plate Oathbringer formed in his hands, coalescing from mist, appearing as the 10th beat of his heart thudded in his chest. 6 feet long from tip to hilt, the blade would have been unwieldy in the hands of any man not wearing shard plate. To Dalinar, it felt perfect. He'd carried Oathbringer since his youth, bonding to it when he was 20 weepings old, which is it's part of the culture in their world, is that they go years based off of the weepings. The weepings are so consistent that that's how they base their birthdays. How many weepings that they've seen.
And the weepings are like the massive high storms, right? Like a monsoon.
No, it's like this period of time where like a couple weeks or something, where it's not a high storm. It's a steady, dreary rain for a couple of weeks.
Okay, and they basically just,
it's not like a real bad storm. It's just, that's when Kaladin gets the blues. He gets all sad face.
Yeah,
during
I was gonna say they sit inside and listen to like Radiohead and Joy Division, and just
it's a lot of Adele. A lot of Adele. Kaladin's like nothing but Adele during the week.
So are you meaning to say Del the Funky Homo Sapien? And
they're the same person.
Oh man, he's really reinvented himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, looks nothing alike.
yeah, they don't. Oh, he's talented. I knew he was talented, but Jesus, man, that's impressive. That really beats Deltron.
Reinvented himself, and somehow got much bigger, much more popular,
much more successful. Won a bunch of Grammys. Yeah. Wow. Well, big up to Del. Well done.
Yeah. Very, very impressive, and that's definitely what Kaladin listens to. He's a massive Adele fan.
I do. Well, I mean, if we were going to go that route, I would say Kaladin be a big blues guy. He'd be listening to a lot of blues. A lot of the, the world is against me type shit. But in terms of that chapter, that paragraph, the Shardblade sounds so great. It's one of the things that Sanderson, one of the many things he creates in this book, the Shard Plate and the Shard Blade, that have been getting described in these last few chapters, that's really just super, super cool and very unfair when you compare it to what you have up against it. I mean, it's just, you got to be Kaladin to beat one of these things.
Yeah, and a man never really knew life itself until he charged into battle with plate and blade.
So apparently there's only like a dozen men in the world.
Yeah. Not many men have experienced life.
Yeah, what the hell, man? So that's, the fact that there's so
there's
few,
much more. There's much more than 12. There's hundreds, but at least a couple hundred.
But it just seems like everyone else is subservient.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're, and then there's the, why do I always draw a blank on these? The priests.
Ardents.
Yeah, so unless you're an Ardent, it's like you're on a different level where it does feel like, to a degree, you can have some ability to be, on another level psychologically. It seems like more that's the role for women that are more theologians or what have you. But Ardents have a shot at that. Other than that, you're either shard blade and sharp plate, or you're just a random soldier or a bridgeman.
Yeah, if you had shard plate and shard blade, like, you would feel like a superhuman.
Yeah,
because you're almost invincible. Very little anybody can do. Like, you would have to get surrounded and hit a bunch of times where it broke your shard your plate. Your shard plate got broke so much that it like shut down and you couldn't move in it anymore.
Well, and you got to have someone with abilities like Kaladin or Zeth. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of those guys. I mean, what Zeth did is legendary in this world.
Yeah, because I mean, you would have to, like, if you were attacking someone in shard plate, you would want to hit them from a distance, but you would have to hit them with enough force to do actual damage. So it'd be hard to, without like a catapult or something, to really do much damage to them with distance weapons. And then, but like getting in close is a disaster waiting to happen if they have a fucking blade. Is they can just spin around in a fucking circle, and anything that gets touched by that thing is getting killed or losing a limb.
Yeah, it feels like you got to drop someone off a cliff.
Yeah,
right. Throw somebody out a window like Zeth did.
Without like artillery. Like, I mean, artillery.
Yeah.
Now suddenly the fucking game changes if like someone's got guns. If you got guns and tanks, then yeah, you're fucking. Go ahead with your fucking shard plate and shard blade. I'm gonna fucking blast you from 100 fucking meters away.
If you can. But again, I mean, obviously hand-to-hand combat, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And cut through all elements.
Even with like what shard plate and shard blade can do, like I would rather have a sniper rifle. If, like if I could go into their world and I could have one of the two, give me a fucking sniper rifle, because I'm gonna fucking shoot the guy from so far away he doesn't even fucking see me, and that a bullet is going to do damage to the shard plate.
Yeah, but he's zooming around, man. He's zooming around in his shard plate.
Yeah,
he's jumping.
Yeah, but you hit him enough times. You hit him 3 or 4 times, that suddenly that shard plate starts getting pretty heavy. He's not zooming around anymore.
Yeah, where's all their their gun makers?
Problem would be, it's like if you're hitting up close with like handgun, then you're in a little more trouble. You might be able to get a couple shots off, but the guy could fucking jump like fucking 30 feet and cover ground in an insane amount of time. So he could, you could shoot him 6 times and then he's right on top of you and, slices right through you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you got to throw some crazy things at him. And it seems like the people that can launch like the types of things that would be lethal are also in shard plate.
Right? You would not want to fight the guy on flat ground. Like the shattered plane seemed like a disaster zone for fighting someone with a shard plate.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But yeah, so he goes and as they're fighting this thing, Dalinar and Elhokar and Adolin, they're all in their shard plate and they all got shard blades, so they're coming in close attack. And then you got, other fighters are trying to slow it down, but they're getting massacred. And then you got guys with arrows firing arrows at it, but those things are just kind of bouncing off of it, so they're not doing much damage other than they're kind of distracting it. But it's like Dalinar was worried about the soldiers in attendance. This hunt had already turned terribly wrong. Perhaps they should distract the monster long enough for everyone to escape, then pull back and let it dine on trolls and hogs. But as he's thinking this, they fucking Elhokar's like, nah, fuck that. He's fucking goes rolling straight in after it. I love the aspects of that. Like, it's like Elhokar closed his helm, the sides missing. Hold back, your majesty, Dalinar called, riding past. Wait until Adolin and I weaken it. Dalinar reached up, slamming down his own visor. But Elhokar just blows right past him and goes straight at this thing. Like, no, you guys go about, cutting its legs. I'm going to fucking distract it. Even though Dalinar would have been the better person for distracting the beast because of his horse.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way it's described by Dalinar, Elhokar fights really brave and quite dumb, or kind of in a stupid way, or a
It's brave, but it's
unsafe.
reckless. I mean, it's
reckless.
reckless,
That's
and
the
it
word I was
doesn't
looking
make.
for.
It's not tactically the smart decision. You would and that should also be mentioned that the Rashadium Gallant, it comes rolling up into the battle like with Dalinar didn't call for it or anything like that. It's just once the battle started and Dalinar took off and is running at this fucking chasm fiend, Gallant comes up on him on his own, just rolls up beside him, and he just hops on this thing's back and gets into battle. So like this horse is primed for this role of like distracting a chasm fiend. Like if anybody was going to do it, you want Adolin or Dalinar to be the ones distracting it, and then Elhokar kind of rolling around the edges of it, cutting its legs off. That's a much more tactically sound choice. Instead of you put the guy that Adolin and Dalinar would have to be extremely focused on protecting, and you put him in the most dangerous position, it weakens their ability to go cut this thing's legs because they got to keep an eye out for the fucking king.
Yeah, now they have to protect him as well as yeah. I agree, but Elhokar, he wants to be Billy Badass, so he's running in there trying to be Billy Badass. These Rashadium are definitely badass horses. I mean, the fact that they just kind of run in. It says the rest basically even the war horses, the other horses are all panicked. But Adolin's Rashadium stallion held steady. In a moment, Gallant was there trotting beside Dalinar. Yeah, and it's pretty cool to see how Dalinar basically protects the horse as well. And basically it happens a number of times where he'll like send the horse away so it's not in harm's way when things get really bad.
Yeah, they can like communicate with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like these are like the Dodge Neon of horses.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Definitely. Yeah. It's like Dodge Neons. You can just be like, "Hey, come here and help." Like, or if you're in a bank robbery and you just run, your Dodge Neon will just like drive up to you.
Yeah.
And you can just jump in the car. That's what they're known for.
Yeah, that's what they're yeah. They're known as they're just basically known as the best cars ever built.
Yes.
Right? They're most durable, reliable, and basically are like a human being.
And they're all neon.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is a great color for a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also one of the cool aspects of the shard plate, like you got when the gloves are on, it's chainmail, but it fits the hand like a glove. And it feels like a glove. So you still got the full dexterity of your hand.
That's huge.
And then with the helmet, when you locks into place, like it becomes translucent for the person wearing it. So he can see out of it. It's like he says it's like looking through dirty glass. But still, you can see out of it. And so you can see attacks coming from, you're not completely blind. But you still need the eye slits to look through to be able to see very well. But you have a much more ability to see your surroundings than you would with just like a typical helmet.
So and also being protected at the same time. I mean, that's key,
Yeah, it's just much, much better than just standard plate. I mean, not only the physical benefits, but just the benefits of you're not losing, you lose less sight, you're not losing dexterity, so it's a huge advantage. That's
one of the things whenever I've seen like the old armor that was literally worn in like medieval ages, it looks so like impossible.
Like how are you fucking moving around? Like you feel like you could just like sidestep the person, kick them in the ass, and they fall over, and then like they need 3 people to help them stand back up.
Yeah, well, and how do you see? A lot of the helms, it's like, dude, you can't like see anything. So I mean, it does seem like it would have to be something that could be advantageous on top of a massive horse. But yeah, in battle, it's like, dude, you're unwieldy. And
I'd be curious, like how much that stuff was actually worn during fights, because that is, or if it's more not fucking realistic to fight in that kind of shit.
It actually does seem like something that would be more, ostentatious. Basically, guards near the king wearing it, and it's all bright. It's something that looks protective, and so you're basically wearing it at a royal situation, like at court, where the
Yeah.
guards would be wearing it. Which actually, one of the funny things, if you go to a museum and see it, people used to be real small.
Yeah.
A bunch of small people wearing armor.
Yeah, they're all like you.
yeah, they're all like me. Well, basically, yeah. I mean, they're not. Yeah, because when you see it in a lot of shows, I mean, you have like Dog and Game of Thrones and things like that. Dudes are massive, right? And with the armor, it's quite impressive. But then when you see like the little guys that were wearing armor back then, it was just
Yeah, they'd have a tough time casting this movie because as a movie or TV show, if they wanted to be realistic and honest to the books, because these Alethi they seem a lot bigger than the typical Hollywood actor.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Right?
Like Kaladin's like fucking probably 6'8", and I mean he's tall, but like it seems like
it's all relative.
The average Alethi is probably like running around like 6'2", 6'3", something like that.
Yeah, but you watch any movie with Tom Cruise, he doesn't look like he's as short as he actually is. It's all relative, right?
Yeah, but yeah, he looks short. I can tell that guy is short. I do not look at Tom Cruise ever and think like, oh, that guy's like 6 foot.
No, I don't think, but he seems like he's normal height because everybody around him's basically the same height. In most of the movies.
Yeah, but they're all unless you see like a normal sized fucking dude standing next to him.
That's what I'm saying. They don't shoot it that way. Right?
Yeah, well, you would have to. I mean, if you want to be realistic to the fucking books, you're gonna need some big dudes.
I don't think they're that. I think in most
like, what are you gonna like? You're gonna cast Rock as like he's gonna be like some 5'8" guy. So like he looks slightly bigger than fucking Tom Cruise.
I think Rock would definitely would have to be taller. Kaladin would have to be taller. But if everybody else is like 5'8",
then I'm saying like once you start casting like one or two big guys, you start casting a bunch of 5'4" other characters, and it looks funny. It's like seeing like The Rock with fucking Kevin Hart.
Well, but even when they do The Rock and Kevin Hart, they still I feel like Kevin Hart still ends up looking taller than he is.
No, he doesn't.
But I don't know how big The Rock is, frankly.
Oh no, it's funny. It's like there's a picture of The Rock standing next to Shaq and Charles Barkley, and he looks like a fucking little tiny dude.
Well, then that helps. Then that helps Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah,
because he's not a huge dude.
But The Rock's pretty big. He's just not. The Rock only looks small next to someone who's like 7 foot tall.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all relative, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So then, they got the arrows fired off after it. And then it says Dalinar raced under the limb, transferring Oathbringer to his left hand and holding the sword out to the side, slashing it through one of the chasmfiend's trunk-like legs. The blade sheared the thick chitin with barely a tug of resistance. As always, it didn't cut living flesh, though it killed the leg as surely as if it had been cut free. The large limbs slipped, falling numb and useless. Which sounds worse. I mean, okay, the advantage is you wouldn't bleed out. But then you got this lifeless limb that you're fucking having to carry around. So now it's just dead weight.
Yeah, that's pretty... I can't imagine. I mean... What do they call that? Like a vestigial limb?
Yeah.
It's like something that you have no control over and it's just basically dying or like withering.
But it's like falling asleep on your arms. And then like, when you're fucking just trying to get the feeling back in it, it's just wobbling next to you. It'd be a big pain in the ass if it was like that forever.
So I got to that part of book 2 where Kaladin gets cut with Shardblade, and initially his limb goes, I think it's his arm or his hand, whatever, goes limp, and then it comes back. So for
Hold
him, it
on.
comes back.
What part did you get to?
I want to say it's in book 2.
Yeah.
Some part. Yeah, it's when someone tries to kill Elhokar.
Oh,
Or
you
is
so
it-
you
are they going after
you mean
Dalinar?
the assassin in white?
Yeah, I guess that is. Yeah, I guess that is the case, right?
Well, like
Adolin.
I'm trying to think of if there was another fight. Yeah, like I mean it has to be that. Like I mean you're talking about like when he jumps out the window too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Seth.
Okay. Yeah, that is Zeth. So and then what? Well, I'm trying to remember all the details. I remember basically Adolin would have been fucked if it wasn't for Kaladin. I
Well,
wish
and
I
all of
remember all
them
the
would have been
details.
fucked if it wasn't for fucking Kaladin. And they,
Yeah.
I mean, they barely fucking survived, as is. But, and then Dalinar had the fucking crazy maneuver where, similar to like the chasm fiend here, where he fucking just slams his hands to the side of the shard blade and catches it.
Yeah, you're right. Like he does here with the chasm fiend when he holds the big claw, whatever, from coming down. It's like that's not possible. Yeah, it's when the black thorn comes out, basically, right? So, but that was it. So obviously, there's all these things that Kaladin's able to do, and he doesn't understand why he's able to do it.
Yeah.
And all these potentials that keep coming out, very similar to Shallan as well, where that keeps happening as well, where it's like, wait, what is this? Where is this coming from? That's why I thought it was interesting that that guy came back and was like asking her as a child if she had her own spren, and she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like who has their own spren? That's not a thing, basically." Yeah. So, yeah, it's. I mean, I guess that's the Radiance, right? That's these people that know that this is out there, and then like Moash, right, knows that about Kaladin, sees it in him, and then slowly starts to talk to him about it.
Teft.
Oh, it's Teft. Okay.
Yeah.
And I got to get these people clear in my mind.
Teft's the one that kind of sees it in Kaladin. But yeah, and then so they start cutting down the legs, and the thing's walking on 14 legs, and so they they're cutting through them, and that's eventually how they bring it down is cutting enough legs. But it's like astride the animal, Elhokar charge, blade held above his head. Well, there's no forbidding him to fight. He should be all right in his plate so long as he kept moving. The legs, Dalinar shouted. Elhokar ignored him, charging directly for the beast's chest. Like the dude's just like fucking brave, but like the whole thing, like he's like, all right, fucking go outside it. I'll go in the middle. I'll distract it. And he's like, no. I'll distract it. It's like, okay, go for its legs. Now I'm going for its chest. Like, motherfucker.
Yeah, I love too that this Dalinar's job is to protect him above all else.
Yeah.
He's making it very, very difficult.
It's like you got the fucking kings like, sitting back there like, okay, you're going to stand back here. You're going to fucking guide everybody. Like, yeah, I hear you. And then he just starts charging into the fucking teeth of the army. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I guess now we have to fucking go get in the fucking teeth of this battle.
It kind of makes me think of like a lawyer and his drug crazed client that is just constantly doing reckless things. Like, all right, man, we got through that last court case. Let's just take it easy.
All you have to do is say not guilty, and then don't say anything else. Let me talk. Okay, I got you. Guilty. Like, you stupid fucking idiot.
Fuck you and fuck you.
Yeah.
I do what I want.
I don't fucking acknowledge this court. This court has no power over me. I'm a fucking free man.
I really love the idea of being in court, like in a situation like that, and just going, "You're out of order, and you're out of order." Just
I hold you in contempt. I have so much contempt for you. I couldn't have more contempt.
I love the idea of just doing stupid shit like that and doing all the what's the Jack Nicholson lines from A Few Good Men?
You can't handle the truth.
Like, what are you talking about?
You need me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Counselor, is your client on drugs right now? Did he come into the court on drugs?
This is a stressful time. I'm gonna need a recess, please.
Yeah.
Just constantly calling for recess.
But yeah, so Elhokar comes charging in, and then the king veered toward Dalinar, riding past him in a rush. I'm distracting it, you fool. Keep attacking. I have the Rashadium, Dalinar yelled back. I'll distract him. I'm faster. Elhokar ignored him again. Dalinar sighed. But I love that aspect where Elhokar's doing all the dumb shit, and then he's running up on Dalinar. Is like, I'm distracting him, you fool. What are you doing?
Well, I also love he keeps doing things like meet your enemy, monster.
Yeah.
He keeps having these little quips.
It's like this thing doesn't understand you.
Make it angry. Meet your enemy. Like it's like it's all these lines that you would have at like the end of not Die Hard, but those types of movies.
It's like when he kills it, he's like, finish him.
Eat my dust.
Yeah. I don't know what a good finishing line for a fucking shell beast would be. Can't think of a good one for like a good pun.
Yeah, I feel like he'd put a bib on with a lobster on it.
Yeah.
Let's eat. That's his line.
Yeah.
Dalinar just dude, would you stop? I like this whole dynamic of just Elhokar being completely
he stabs
reckless.
he stabs it in the heart, kills it, and then he like pulls out a stick of butter, turns to the crowd, and he's like, "Let's eat."
Dalinar's like, that will poison you, we'll all die.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. So dude, you don't play along, man. I'm having fun.
It was a great line. You just ruined it. You ruined everything.
But Elhokar definitely has he loves being a showman. You know, even with the saddle, right? Always has to up the ante.
Well, he's desperate for, to garner the respect that he wants. He wants that respect, and he's desperate to do what he's got to do to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hence all his showmanship and his little quips.
Yeah, but he's being stupid.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's worth pointing out, because he's over the top.
Yeah, but yeah, and then so the creature shook, confused by the attacks coming from every side. It was getting weak, and Dalinar raised his arm, gesturing. The command ordered the rest of the foot soldiers to retreat toward the pavilion. Orders given, he slipped in and killed another leg. That meant 5 down. Perhaps it was time to let the beast limp away. Killing it now wasn't worth risking lives. And of course, as he's thinking that, fucking again, Elhokar comes rolling in and is like, as the chasmfiend loomed in the background, Elhokar wheeled vengeance in a sharp right turn toward Dalinar. There was a soft snap, and suddenly the king and his saddle went tumbling through the air. The horse's quick turn had caused the saddle girth to break. A mane and shard plate was heavy and put a great strain on both his mount and saddle. So, and then you come to find out he did it to himself. He cut his own fucking saddle. Like, this is what he wanted. So it's not only he's being reckless, but then he's also doing it. He's got an ulterior motive to convince Dalinar that someone's trying to kill him. And the way he's trying to do this is by putting himself in a extremely dangerous position where, like, if Dalinar hadn't done something fucking crazy and amazing, Elhokar would have fucking been dead.
Yeah, this is a really, really funny character, man. And we've seen certain, I don't know if it's a trope, but certain situations like this. I mean, I've seen certain situations like this in other like television shows and stories where it's, just going way over the top with a half-baked fucking plan that could very easily go very wrong for you. And like you said, I mean, unless Dalinar does something that's incredible, this dude's dead. He's that close to death, and he just keeps running in with, I defy you, creature. Are you a god?
Yeah.
Vengeance upon thee. You know, he fucking starts quoting fucking Pulp Fiction. That's Ezekiel 25:17 shit.
It's a tasty burger.
That's that, dude. That's actually, I mean, it would be very interesting inside baseball type Sanderson approach, but make a show which really goes over the top with Elhokar, and he's just doing a tremendous amount of, what do you call them? You know, when you rip another movie, but you do it complimentary wise.
Homage.
Yeah, it does a bunch of homages
Yeah.
where it's just all these quips where he just keeps doing it over and over and over again from like famous movies. Like yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! And he comes in with his sharp blade.
What's the clean version?
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. I actually prefer watching Die Hard on cable for those types of things because it makes no sense. Yeah. There's no reason to call him Mr. Falcon.
It's such a great. It's so stupid.
Yeah, that's why it's so great.
In
it makes no sense.
Every Sanderson should have like in Star Wars, every movie, like one of the characters says, "I got a bad feeling about this." It's in every Star Wars movie, and they should have Sanderson should do that in every one of his books. A character yells, "Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon!"
Well, this would be the part certainly right here with Elhokar. That would definitely, this would definitely make sense right here.
Oh, that would be classic. And that's, if I was an artist or an author, I think I would do that, is throw in famous movie lines, but just like casually just drop them in there. Like you didn't just rip them.
I mean, dude, like for me, how it would be the most satisfying, just a little wink to the audience in case they missed it, is every time you have one of those on the television show or the movie, you throw in the Sanderson avalanche.
Yeah,
I don't know what you call it. What do you call it?
Sanderlaunch.
Sanderlaunch. Yeah,
Sanderlanch.
It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, Sanderlanch.
It's one of my favorite visual images of all time. It works so well, man.
Yeah,
I would throw that in every time there's a Mr. Falcon.
It's a great one. Like if you haven't seen it, there's a gift where it's an avalanche, but then it's just Sanderson's head on the avalanche coming down, like fucking flying into the screen at you.
Yeah, and he's making a really funny face.
Yeah.
And dude, the first time I saw it, I just watched it like, I don't know, 30 times.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
It's fucking great.
But yeah, that would be perfect. With just a little punctuation mark, an exclamation mark on the Mr. Falcons.
That was actually, one of the things when I started reading Sanderson, I hadn't heard anything about Sanderson's writing, so I didn't really have any kind of clue that people talked about how epic his endings are. And so I read like the first 2 Mistborn books, and I was like, man, this dude knows how to do a fucking stirring ending. And then I was reading like Stormlight, and I was like, this dude is a master at fucking building a crescendo. And then I was like, it's like a fucking avalanche, man. Like fucking the way it comes in. And then like find out like, oh, this is what everybody says. And not only do they say this, there's a literal meme of him as an avalanche. Fucking, there's a fucking gif of that.
Making a silly face.
Yeah.
As he launches right into your face.
Yes. Like, so apparently everybody who reads him thinks this.
Nice. Well, that makes sense, right? People, I like when people read a book and pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
That's, that's usually a good way to.
Yeah, it's a good idea. If you're reading books, you should pay attention to what's happening in the book.
What's funny is, as I'm saying that, I've obviously misquoted so many things that I've said thus far, just in this episode where I'm trying to describe certain characters and what happened. But I go through it a couple times, so we'll get there.
So Elhokar, he hits the ground, and then he drops his shard blade, which it reverts back to mist, vanishing. And so it says it was a protection to keep a blade from being taken by your enemies. They vanished unless you willed them to stay when releasing them, which it actually, you would think would be a more common tactic, to leave your shard blade on the fucking ground for someone to pick up, so that when they come running at you, like with your shard blade, like then as they fucking come charge at you, then make it disappear. as they're fucking swinging it down and shit, and then fucking vanish to mist, and then just fucking stab them.
Yeah. Well,
That would fuck someone up. Like if they fucking are swinging a blade down and then it just disappears on them, and now they're fucking weaponless.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
Yeah.
But they do have a choice to allow it to stay as one, right? Rather than have it. Yeah.
Yeah, they can, it's purely their choice. They can will it to stay or disappear.
I'm thinking a really good cross promotion opportunity, especially on the Shattered Plains when it goes to Mist. Just place an ad for Sierra Mist.
Yeah,
that's where the hint comes in.
Yeah,
Elhokar just takes a cup of Sierra Mist.
I think we talked about that in the last episode, like at the concession stands and stuff. Like there'll be a lot of product placement. So yeah, there'd be also opportunities like like his blade disappears and then the camera zooms into a guy holding up a can of Sierra Mist at the concession stand.
Yeah, he just pours it all over his face and just
yeah,
it's great.
But so it's he lays dazed for a moment. The armor was cracked on one shoulder, leaking Stormlight. The plate would have cushioned the fall. He'd be all right unless a claw loomed above the king. Dalinar felt a moment of panic, turning Gallant to charge towards the king. He was going to be too slow. The beast would, and then a claw slams into, or an arrow slams into the chasmfiend's head, cracking chit and purple gore spurted out. And so he sees that Sadeas fucking smoked this thing with an arrow and saved the king's life. It looked like the king was in trouble there. Chasmfiend was about to slam down on him, and Sadeas saves him first. And so and then they kind of look at each other and both acknowledge each other and shit in the middle of the battle. And so it gives you an example of that. It starts to build that Sadeas, who seems like a bastard in the beginning, but starts to set that groundwork for, he's a bastard, but he's still loyal to the king.
Yeah, and it even suggests here, but they would protect, like they're not friends and they did not like one another, but they would protect the king. That was the bond that united them. And he does a really good job of continuously showing that Sadeas is a bastard. He's a dick to everybody. The way he talks to people's horrible. He's not likable. He looks like shit, which Sanderson has that for every dude except for Adolin and Kaladin. But this bond,
fucking face.
Yeah. But this bond, unfortunate face, the wrong nose.
Yeah.
This bond that he keeps talking about does become stronger and stronger. And man, he does such a great job towards the end where you're just like, oh, so Sadeas isn't bad, and then boom. Left hook. You're like, oh, this son of a bitch. This dude's a complete
especially
bastard.
After everything Dalinar does to fucking save him.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And then this dude fucking turns on him. Like, what a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, and has the balls to be like, yeah, of course I did. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
You're done, bro. You're done. I'm just taking you out. I'm doing it the best way possible.
I did you a favor. I was doing you a favor, and quite frankly, I'm offended that you're mad about it.
I honestly have to respect that way to come back. Instead of be like, yeah, you got me. I fucked up. And he's like, no, I did it the right way. You should be thankful.
It's like you cut the brakes on your friend's fucking car. It's like, hey, look, I was doing you a favor. Your hair's going gray. You're starting to get crow's feet. You're fucking done. You're on the way out.
Yeah, man, I'm just helping you out, bro.
Yeah. I don't want to see you go. You're like 2 steps away from the nursing home. I don't want to fucking see you go down like that. Just trying to send you out fucking gracefully. And
dude's like, dude, I'm 45.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's over. You're over 45, man.
I have little kids. Like, yeah, I was thinking about their insurance policy.
Yeah. You have insurance. I thought about this. Like, dude, this isn't something I just came up with willy-nilly. I thought long and hard about this, and if you thought about it enough, you would know I'm right.
I mean, dude, that's basically what he does.
Yeah.
That's basically where he comes back.
What is Dalinar? Dalinar's like 45, 50 years old, something in that range. I mean, so it's basically that, that type of thing where it's like, oh, he's so fucking old. He's just basically, he's done. Like,
well, and they do talk about how he's, a lot of the people have lost respect for him because he doesn't fight like he used to. But when he does fight, dude's as vicious as ever, it seems.
Yeah.
Like he does it here, right?
Yeah.
And he does.
You see what he does, like to get to Sadeas to save his life and shit. I mean, and then like, them fighting off, when Sadeas betrays them, the lengths that they go to survive. I mean, they have to fucking lay waste to people.
Yeah, and thankfully Kaladin. But yeah, that's a great example. The culmination you're talking about. I mean, even building it in this way with a character that you grow to despise, or you kind of always do. He does a great job of transitioning you from like really despising this guy to kind of not despising him as much. I want to say almost even liking to a degree, and then just the massive stab in the back and the absolute just ridiculous fortitude to be like, nah, fuck you, dude. I was doing you a favor. You're done. You're on your way out, and you should be thankful. So how about that?
Dude, you were being a bitch, and that's it, man. It's you once you start acting like that, there's no coming back from it.
Hey, no regrets, bro.
Yeah,
no regrets.
Yeah, Sadeas definitely has no regrets tattooed on his fucking chest,
and his wife. They would both have that.
Yeah,
they're two peas in a pod. Them two.
Yeah, fucking super dope. But yeah, so then they get back to cutting down legs after Sadeas saves the king, and 7 legs down, half of them. How long before the beast dropped? Normally at this stage they'd launched several dozen arrows into the animal. It was difficult to guess what one would do without that prior softening. Besides that, he'd never fought one this large before. So you get a combination. One, they normally take pot shots at this thing and just fill it full of arrows until it's on death's door before they come in and fucking kill it. Which this is giving it a much more fighting chance, and you see why that they soften this thing up, because it very nearly kills the king, who's in shard plate, and he still almost gets fucking wrecked. And they all get fucking smoked. I mean, they all get smoked by this thing. I mean, they survive it, but all 3 of them get fucking cracked.
Yeah, and am I right in thinking that it did actually kill a bunch of the spectators?
Yeah, it killed some of the regular soldiers and shit like that. Yeah, there were people that died.
Yeah, this thing is pretty badass. This would also be, I mean, another way to like visually how impressive this would be, and have this. I would have this happen early in the story, which it does. The thing trumpets with like 4 voices, at once while it's like screaming, and the more it gets stabbed up, the crazier it becomes. And the fact that, again, like you said, one is they usually weaken it. They haven't. They're in the heart of the battle with it as it's just getting hurt. And it's the largest one that Dalinar's ever fought against. He's fought against a ton of these.
Yeah.
So again, this is a pretty huge event.
Yeah. So, and he turned gallant, trying to draw the creature's attention. Hopefully Elhokar had, "Are you a god?" Elhokar bellowed. Dalinar groaned, looking over his shoulder. The king had not fled. He strode toward the beast, hand to the side. "I defy you, creature!" Elhokar screamed. "I claim your life. They will see their gods crushed, just as they will see their king dead at my feet. I defy you." Damnation's own fool, Dalinar thought, rounding gallant. So great.
This dude just doesn't stop, man. He is one for the dramatic.
Surprised he didn't start, like, for the ladies in the audience, start fucking throwing out claims to how big his manhood is.
Oh,
"I see your dong. It is almost as big as mine, but not quite. It's like half the size. It's the second biggest dong next to mine."
Yeah, he's really laying it on thick here, man.
Yeah. So then it's like, then Elhokar slammed his weapon into the monster's breast, seeking its heart. The beast roared and shook, knocking Elhokar free. King barely kept hold of his blade. The beast spun. That movement unfortunately brought his tail at Dalinar, and then Dalinar gets fucking smoked with his horse, and they get knocked back. And drops his sword. Blessedly, the horse hadn't broken a leg, though the animal bled from scrapes and was favoring one leg. And that's where Dalinar is able to just say away, and it obeys him and gets out of there. Whereas, a normal horse would have just ran away. I mean, this horse, he's got to command it to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, where, he's actually protective of it, and it seems like it's necessary because these things are very rare. I do like also that it mentions the command word would send the horse to safety. Unlike Elhokar, it would obey.
Yeah, fucking jackass.
It's pretty cool.
Man.
Well, I guess we're not there yet, but one of the things that really kind of impressed me about the chapter, which is a bit of a risk, I guess it comes up in a minute, but when he switches narrators, he goes from Dalinar's perspective to Adolin's, and that way we get to see someone witnessing Dalinar become the Blackthorn. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, and I like, after he gets, knocked down and he's summoning his shard blade again, then Renarin comes up, Father, and he's like, Father, are you well? Can I help? Fool boy, Dalinar's head pointing. Go, but you're unarmed, you're unarmored and unarmed, Dalinar bellowed. Get back before you get yourself killed. Renarin pulled his rowan horse to a halt. Go, Renarin galloped away. I like that aspect of, like, he comes running in, trying to be helpful, and Dalinar's just like, dude, what is wrong with all these people?
Why is everyone so freaking reckless around me?
Like, I don't understand what is going on. Like, you're fucking running into the battle, like, Daddy! Get the fuck out of here.
I'll protect you. He's wearing his uniform.
Yeah.
He has no weapon.
So got a fucking paper shield.
Everybody stop. Cut it out.
He's like, got shooting spitballs at it. It's like, I'll protect you.
I like the idea of just like, the old school marm that just walks in like, stop it. You stop it.
Leave everyone my daddy alone. That would have been fucking great. That's what he should have wrote in. Is fucking Renarin fucking acting like a fucking 5-year-old would. But yeah, so I mean, he's coming in running in, which, it shows you kind of Renarin's, personality in the fact that he's grown up with a warrior dad and a warrior brother that got shard plate, shard blade, and this dude can't even fight, but he's brave. He's
still willing.
He wants to be able to fucking fight. He just is unable to because of his health.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I'm trying to remember if he comes to Kaladin or if he goes to, I can't remember the other guy's name, the guy that trains Kaladin with Shardblade. But he goes to one of them as like, train me. Start me at the lowest position. I don't give a shit. Like he's willing to, demote himself, so to speak.
Yeah, he goes to both of them.
Learn. Is it to both of them? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that character. I like all three of those characters. The guy that trains them as well is a cool character who kind of doesn't take any shit.
Yeah.
And is very to the point with, the approach to, training and everything else. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so you get that he's obviously, he wishes he could be out there, and that's why he's running in there. He is fucking brave, but it's fucking stupid. It's idiotic. I mean, you're seeing it like Dalinar. If that fucking beast hit Renarin like it just hit Dalinar and Elhokar and Adolin, all three of them got fucking smoked by it. But if Renarin gets hit by it like that, he's dead. So it's it's idiotic. It's like, get the fuck out of there. What are you doing, moron?
I would think to a degree this is Elhokar's fault, because Elhokar's running around on his horse like, I shall slay you, beast. And everybody's like, yeah, let's get in there. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Rather than like being tactical and strategic about it, as Dalinar would rather run a show here and do it smartly or intelligently. Rather, Elhokar just rushing
Dalinar had the right idea from the beginning. It's like, oh, let's get the fuck out of here. This is
just
this
let
whole
it eat
thing
the hogs and thing.
blew the fuck up in our face. Let's run.
Yeah.
No, we're not running. Fucking going straight at its chest.
Elhokar's putting on a show. I'm surprised he didn't go to the crowd and be like, let's all get it. Let's all go. Come on.
I'm surprised he didn't like take off his shard plate and like fucking go in with a pocket knife. Like fucking, I'm gonna fucking kill it. I got my switchblade.
Yeah, I love the idea. Yeah, he rips it off and he's standing there bare chested, like, let's go. Yeah. And then it just crushes him immediately.
Yeah.
And you're like,
you got first shot. Take your shot, beast.
It immediately kills him.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't work out.
I don't understand what the king was doing. It was such a stupid idea. He gave it a shot at him. It's like fucking 30 feet tall.
That's I love scenes like that. I know I've seen that in a couple comedies or something where it's like, bring it on, and then immediately die.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's how that would work out.
It's like
apparently.
the fucking Indiana Jones where the guy's like fucking with his sword, fucking spinning it around, and Indiana Jones just pulls out his gun and shoots the dude, walks off.
Yeah, that's a great scene. Just pulls out his revolver and blasts him.
But so he sends Renarin off, and then Adolin hops up and he goes next to the king and starts fighting beside him. And then Adolin gets fucking smoked and he goes, rolling around. Says Adolin rolled lethargically, hands moving. He was alive. No time to think about him now. Elhokar was alone. And it said the beast struck, pounding the ground beside the king, knocking him off his feet. His blade vanished and Elhokar fell face first on the stones. Something changed inside Dalinar. Reservations vanished. Other concerns became meaningless. His brother's son was in danger. He had failed. Gavilar had lain drunk in his wine while his brother fought for his life. Dalinar should have been there to defend him. Only two things remained of his beloved brother. Two things that Dalinar could protect and hope to earn some form of redemption. Gavilar's kingdom and Gavilar's son. Elhokar was alone and in danger. Nothing else mattered. And you got Adolin shook his head, dazed. He slammed his visor up, taking a gasp of fresh air to clear his mind. So after you get that speech where Dalinar is like fucking goes into battle mode and he's running in to save the king, then it switches perspectives and you're seeing it from Adolin's perspective now. And he's like, the chasmfiend, he thought. Before his mind was even clear, Adolin began summoning his blade again and forced himself to his hands and knees. As his vision lost its fuzziness, he saw that the king was down and his armor was cracked from the blow he'd taken earlier. The chasmfiend raised a massive claw, preparing to slam it down. Adolin knew, suddenly, that disaster was upon him. The king would be killed on a simple hunt. The kingdom would shatter. The high princes divided. The one tenuous link that kept them together cut away. So he's seeing like all of everything they've done is lost. Like he's gonna die right now. He's done. And it's like, no, Adolin thought, stunned, still dazed, trying to stumble forward. And then he saw his father, Dalinar, charged towards the king, moving with the speed and grace no man, not even one wearing shard plate, should be able to manage. He leaped over a rock shelf, then ducked and skidded beneath a claw, swinging for him. Other men thought they understood shard blades and shard plate, but Dalinar, Kholin, at times he proved them all children. Dalinar straightened and leaped, still moving forward, cresting by inches a second claw that smashed apart the rocky shelf behind him. It was all just a moment, a breath. The third claw was falling toward the king, and Dalinar roared, leaping forward. He dropped his blade. It hit the ground and puffed away as he skidded beneath the falling claw. He raised his hands and he caught it. He bent beneath the blow, going down on one knee, and the air rang with a resounding clang of carapace against armor. But he caught it. Stormfathers, Adolin thought, watching his father stand over the king, bowed beneath the enormous weight of a monster many times his size. Shocked archers hesitated. Sadeas lowered his grand bow. Adolin's breath caught in his chest. Dalinar held back the claw and matched its strength. A figure in dark, silvery metal almost seemed to glow. The beast trumpeted above, and Dalinar bellowed back a powerful, defiant yell. It's a crazy, crazy moment.
Yeah.
That to see, that's the type of stuff you want to see in a show.
Yeah.
Because he writes a lot of these heroic scenes and in such a stirring way, where you just want to see that on screen. And this is a perfect one where it's like fighting a giant beast, and he just comes in and boom, snatches this claw that's about to end their kingdom.
When he's like dodging 2 vicious blows from the thing and doing it in a way that looks impossible.
Yeah.
For most to be able to navigate, and then literally catches the claw coming down, which seems impossible. Seems completely impossible, yet is able to do it. And that's badass. And this is where, this is where Sanderson's built up so well to this point, because we've heard that he was a legend. He's not anymore. He had all this ability that was well respected, and this legend that he gained over time that now has been waning, right?
Yeah.
But then we see it right here, and it's like, oh shit. And that's what that's why that name ends up being important, because what is it? The representation of it is the Blackthorn. Wherever that name came from, I don't really know the derivation, but I know that he earned this name, and that's finally what Adolin's getting to see, is who the Blackthorn was. This is the guy. This is the very man he'd been wishing he could fight alongside.
Yeah, because what he did a great job of is in the previous chapter, he laid the groundwork for like Dalinar's is done, dude. Like he's lost that warrior instinct, and then the next chapter you see Dalinar in action. It's like, well, yeah, no, he's a fucking badass fucking dude.
Well, in this part too, like you said, something that'd be great to see. His plate is. And we see it crack when Adolin gets knocked down. We see it crack with Elhokar. But in this circumstance, his gauntlets and shoulders are cracking like webs of light moving down the ancient metal. So it's the force pushing against him. It's like he's going to fucking burst.
Yeah.
Or his plate's going to burst.
And then Adolin hops too and goes and slashes another leg. And then this is the one where, once he gets another leg, there was a crack in the air with so many legs down, the beast's other legs couldn't hold its weight, and so it crumbles to the ground and falls on its side. And then Dalinar nodded thankfully to Adolin, then gestured sharply towards what passed for the beast next. Elhokar nodded, then summoned his blade and rammed it deeply into the monster's flesh. The creature's uniform gray eyes blackened and shriveled, smoke twisting into the air. So that's a hell of a fight, yeah. And then Elhokar fucking cuts out the gem heart and holds it up like a fucking superstar. And
let's eat.
Yeah, fucking rub some butter on it and fucking is like, let's eat. Dinner's on me.
That's good. That'd work.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe now I've got the juice.
Yeah. He busts out, like pulls out 2 cans of Sierra Mist, shaking them up and spraying them all over everybody. Like, dude, what is wrong with you?
I love that image of like people are laying around crying at the dead. They're weeping, and he's like spraying them with Sierra Mist in celebration.
He goes like Dalinar's like down on a knee, like huffing, like trying to catch his breath, and Elhokar like comes up, shakes a fucking champagne bottle, and just sprays it all in his face. Like,
I love that this idea. This dude like thinks all of this is just fun as hell. And everybody else is like, dude, we almost died. A bunch of people did die. And basically, you think this is a big show. You're a fucking idiot.
Like shoving a cigar in his mouth, lighting it. Like, get the fuck off me. I'm the king. I'm the king.
Yeah, I love it. That's pretty great. And that would be even better payoff when Dalinar comes into his little office there, knocks him on the ground, nearly kills him, and tells him, "I'm fucking your mom." So deal with that, bruh.
Yeah, and then fucking lights a cigar.
Yeah, that's when
sprays champagne in his face.
There you go. That's when he sprays champagne. He's like, "Oh, let's celebrate now." Oh, no, is this too soon? Is this not appropriate?
I'm the king. But yeah, that's all I got on that chapter.
Yeah.
All right, so chapter 14 is titled Payday, and in this chapter we're back with Kaladin, who's basically like Elhokar's brother from another mother. They're exactly the same type of person. And he's trying to get Bridge 4 to kind of fall under his leadership, and he's having a little bit of trouble getting them on board.
Yeah, he's I would hate this guy. And like if I was in Bridge 4, this scene specifically.
Yeah. Dude.
Let's go. Up and organize.
Like
Come on, guys.
If I was Moash and he did what he did to Moash to me, like you just made an enemy for life.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting beat up all day, you know, and he comes in banging shit, turning the lights on.
Yeah.
Rise and shine. Like, fuck you, bro.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Go fuck yourself. Yeah. But it starts off with let me first assure you that the element is quite safe. I have found a good home for it. I protect its safety like I protect my own skin, you might say. So this is something you would not find out about in the Stormlight books. This is something you would only know what he's talking about is if you go outside of the Stormlight Archive series. Because
is it collagen or is it shea butter?
It's both, but it's a good guess. It's collagen shea butter that they squirt into your fucking lips.
It's into your lips?
Yep.
Why into your lips?
They like big lips. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's just what it is. It's what it is exactly. You guessed it.
Okay.
But no, like it's from the Mistborn series. Hoyd, and even in the Mistborn series, like if you read the trilogy, it's not in there. It's in a little side story, and he gets a god metal, Lerasium, and so a normal person, like if they were burning Lerasium, they would become Mistborn, which you don't know what a Mistborn is, but it's like basically similar to a Wind Runner. It's a different magic system, but you would have some crazy fucking powers. You'd be super like Zeth. I mean, you would have insane fucking powers like Zeth. It's a different magic system. It's different, but you can almost fly and those kind of things too.
Nice.
And I mean, you got a bunch of different powers if you're a Mistborn. But
so you can do like card tricks.
Yeah, basically like you're like David Blaine. You become David Blaine, like a real magician, like real magic, like real life magic,
like David Blaine does.
Yeah,
card tricks and locking yourself in a box. And
yeah, he can fly. I've seen him do it.
Okay.
He does. He lifts into the air with nothing. He can fly. Like I've seen it on tape.
It's not an illusion on tape. Was this a VHS tape?
Yeah, I watched a VHS tape.
Oh, okay.
It's a cassette tape actually. So someone describing David Blaine's illusions. Someone describing them on a fucking cassette tape.
It's a cassette tape. Someone watching a VHS of David Blaine going, "Oh, dude, he's floating, man. Oh, I wish you could see this. He's floating. Like there's nothing there."
Like, no, wow, you don't understand. He's really floating.
So you hear it, and you're just like, yeah, I guess he can do it. I don't know.
I want that now. Like I want I want a cassette tape of someone describing magicians' fucking routines.
So every at the end at the reveal of every routine, every magic trick, it's
Yeah, you should have seen it.
No way. How'd you do it? How'd you do it? How'd you do it?
But yeah, so you could become a Mistborn, Ferrochemist, which you wouldn't know. You can use it to store an unknown quality, and when used as a hemalurgic spike, Claricium steals all abilities. So it's there's the hemalurgic spikes is you could take some like Kaladin's powers, you could take that from him.
Like Rogue?
Like what?
Rogue?
Isn't that the comic book characters. Yeah, it's similar except for you would take it permanently from him and fucking kill him in the process. But
that's not nice.
No, it's not nice. And it's very mean. But so you could gain, with this element that he's taken, you could gain crazy fucking powers. So he's got this in his back pocket. We don't know exactly what he's got it for, what he's planning on doing with it. I think I've heard Sanderson say that initially he was planning on just taking it and becoming a Mistborn. He just wanted the Mistborn powers, but for whatever reason he didn't. And he's just holding on to it. So I don't know what is going to come out of it. I think it would be fucking dope is if it was given to, Kaladin or something like that. But that's what they're talking about is like he's got this fucking crazy powerful tool in his back pocket that he's taken.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah. But, yeah, and let me assure you that it's quite safe. I found a good home for it. I protected safety like I protect my own skin, you might say. But, yeah, and then so the next morning, the morning after his decision in the ice storm, Kaladin made certain to rise before the others. He threw off his blanket, strode through the room full of blanketed lumps. He didn't feel excited, but he did feel resolute, determined to fight again. So, and you're getting now, like, I mean, last time we saw Kaladin, he was ready to fucking jump off into the fucking chasm and fucking kill himself. And now he's like fucking snapping too, and he snaps too, and yeah, one of the most obnoxious ways you could possibly fucking snap to is I'm gonna be super micromanaging you, and I'm
gonna tell a bunch of people what to do. So
yeah,
that's how I'm gonna come out of this. I do like the description of like he didn't feel excited, but he did feel resolute. So it's just that determination to make a difference, basically, is what's fueling him at this point. And he just has this idea in his mind, and we get to watch it play out as to what that idea was. But yeah, if you're in that room, it would be like, dude, you would be, knowing myself, if I was in a situation like this, I would be extraordinarily resistant. But his tactics are quite, the way they evolve are actually quite brilliant, in terms of what he does, becoming the example rather than trying to just roughshod push these people into doing something that's not going to work.
Yeah,
but obviously he's not perfect, so he has to learn those lessons.
He's coming in, up and organize. That means out of the barracks and form ranks. You'll do it now, storm you, or I'll haul you out one by one myself. Like, not only like this dude is like coming in, all of a sudden he's now the bridge leader. So it's like you're thinking like this fucking brown-nosing motherfucker. And not only would you think he's a brown-noser, you're like, you're a brown-noser for the fucking slave masters, you douche. You're king fucking douche.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the whole tactic, the way of trying to do it, just does not go over well, which it shouldn't, because yourself.
Moash, rolls over, and then Kaladin comes up to him, Moash like, storm off, and he fucking picks him up, punches him in the gut, knocks the wind out of him, and then fucking just carries him out of the fucking room and tosses him on his ass. I'm saying, like, at that point, you're my fucking mortal enemy.
Yeah, for real. It's already bad enough. You're like, and now you're gonna make an example out of me. Go fuck yourself, dude. Granted, I do. Again, it's respectful for Kaladin. He chooses like the biggest dude in the room, or one of the biggest dudes in the room.
Yeah, he didn't go after
rather than
Rock,
going after him.
but yeah.
But rather than going after some small dude, because that's obviously the optics matter, and he's trying to make an impression here. He again takes a better tactic later in his approach, but right here he's just trying to go at something, and
he's coming at it. Well, he's coming at it is like he's in the army, and he's treating it like, I'm the fucking commander,
drill
so
sergeant,
I get to order you guys around, and like, I'm gonna whip you guys into shape. I'm gonna break you down to build you up, type of thing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't. I like that Sanderson, took the approach that he did, where like he gets them out there and gets them organized, and then they're like, "Hey, is this fucking jackass allowed to tell us what to do?" And Gaz like, no, he doesn't have any fucking authority. And they're like, "See, you can't tell us what to do." And they all fucking just walk off and leave his ass.
Is it Sigzil, the guy I was talking about earlier? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Sigzil. Yeah, because he brings him out there, and he's like, things are going to change in Bridge 4. For one thing, there will be no more sleeping in. And what are we going to do instead? Sigzil demanded. And then he tells him, I'm excellent question. We're going to train each morning before our daily chores. We will run the bridge and practice to build up our endurance. And so he's trying to get them in better shape, because his objective is,
keep it alive.
We want to be the strongest group and at that last leg, so that we're getting our bridge put down as quickly as possible. So we can go get cover and, not be under the weight of a bunch of arrows. As soon as you set the bridge down, those guys are going to stop firing arrows at you and start going after the other bridges too. So it's, it's a smart, tactically sound, strategy that he's trying to implement, but he's, approaching these despondent fucking guys as if he's just gonna fucking bark commands and they're gonna fucking hop too.
Yeah, it's not gonna work, obviously, and he gets a fair amount of resistance. And yeah, Gaz, not much help.
No. Yeah. It's like, I know what you're thinking. Aren't our lives hard enough? Shouldn't we be able to relax during the brief times we have for it? Yeah, said Leighton, a tall, stout man with curly hair. That's right. No, Kaladin snapped. Bridge runs exhaust us because we spent most of our days lounging. And so he's like, as your bridge leader, my primary duty is to keep you alive. There's not much I can do about the arrows, so I have to do something about you. I have to make you stronger so that when we charge the last leg of the bridge run, arrows flying, you can run quickly. I intend to see that Bridge 4 never loses another man. And that's when, and you get the introduction to Rock, who starts just laughing.
Basically heckling him.
Yeah. It's like,
crazy man who now
thinks
to lead us.
He's a crazy man who thinks to lead us.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. And then, hey, guys, does this jackass get to tell us what to do? And, it's like, bridge leaders only have the authority in the field. So they all fucking go and dip out and go get food and shit.
Yeah, and basically, they're like, oh, well, you can't do anything. Looks like you can storm off, friend, unless you're going to beat us all into submission. Which, that's kind of what he said in the beginning. But yeah, once they're all outside, it's like, well, I'm just going to fucking haul off and kick everybody's ass. Well, that's not really going to work either.
Yeah,
so basically his bluff is called.
Yeah, he tried to approach it like, he would in an army. If he had a crew that had to follow his orders. Just in this situation, he has no authority.
Well, and it's also it's quite great the back and forth with Syl, because it is pointed out that, at least in Amran's army, they had worse places to go. They could be demoted, right? but bridgemen are at the bottom.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? There's nothing they can do unless they don't run and they get killed. So they're either going to get beheaded or, what do they say? If somebody does something pretty bad, like murder or something, then they hang him up in the high storm, like they ended up doing to Kaladin. But
I like the way, for the writing, I like the way like Sanderson approaches things like this, because Syl asks him, what's the difference? So I asked such an innocent question. The answer should have been obvious, but she cocked her head in confusion, asking, what's the difference between, Amram's army versus, these people, and, where they can, in Amram's army, I was given men who were inexperienced, but never ones who were blatantly insubordinate. And so she's asking what the difference is. And I like the way he uses Syl and Pattern as kind of lead-ins to exposition, and also like philosophy and those kind of philosophical questions, as he uses their innocence to bounce these ideas off of, and it's done in a way that it feels much more natural. Whereas like you could easily write these scenes in where you'd be like, all right, dude, fucking okay, Mr. Preachy, and but he does it in a clever way of using like just an innocent character that doesn't understand what's going on and why of these things. So, and the other route you could go is you could just kind of say these things and leave it for the reader to kind of figure it out. But if you're trying to explain some philosophical ideas and you want to explicitly explain them, he does it in a way where it doesn't feel real preachy.
Yeah, and it also it lends almost a therapeutic nature to the character in those conversations. You know what I mean? Because well, think about it. Because of Syl asking making an innocent gesture, she saves his life.
Yeah,
and they talk about it here with the poison leaves. I can't remember what they're called, but something bane. But yeah, it's a great literary tool, because they're part of the world, like an ancient part of the world, but they're also maintain an innocence, and they're ever present, right? But then they can dip out at any time. So it's pretty great. They're great suggestive tools for both.
I love this part because he's like, so what do we do now? I don't know, Kaladin. I glance aside where Gaz still stood chatting with the soldiers. Actually, yes, I do. And then Gaz sees that Kaladin's coming towards him, and then just like fucking gets wide-eyed, and then fucking takes off. And
I love he's in the middle of a conversation and then stops and rushes and goes and hides.
Yeah,
like
and he sends Syl after him, and Syl comes back. He's hiding in the alley, fucking hiding behind some barrels. Like he just totally punks out.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. It's so funny and it makes sense from what we had just seen, but it does definitely speak to Gaz's character of just who he is.
Especially after like
a yelp.
Yeah, after like Kaladin just fucking whooped that ass the fucking last chapter when he came back and just immediately slammed him to the ground and was like choking him out or whatever he did. I can't even remember.
I think he held him up on
his
a wall.
ass.
But yeah, he was basically choking him like, I could kill you. And Gaz was like talking shit to him up to that moment. Like, oh, you do what I say. And he's like, no, bro, I'll fucking smash you.
Yeah. Fucking great. And so tells him where he's at, and he comes up to him, and he's like, I wasn't going to lie, Storm. You don't have authority anywhere other than on the field. If you hurt me again, I'll have you. He's like, dude, settle down. I'm not fucking here to hurt you. Just give me my fucking money.
Oh, you'll get your money when everybody else gets their money. Nah, fuck you. I saw what just happened. You give it to me now.
Give it to me. And I like the aspect of like, because they had the deal, like he's going to give him one sphere every payday. And so Gaz counts out 4 instead of 5. And Kaladin's like, no, give me all 5 of them. And so he's, oh man. So you're going to fucking welch on your deal? Gives gives him the fifth one, and then Kaladin just gives it back to him. It's like, no, I just want you to know that I'm giving this to you. It's not yours.
Yeah.
It's a gift from me.
Yeah, that's really great because he does have to reiterate, like, I'm keeping to my word, but you're not keeping part of my pay. I'm giving it to you. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
And it's also insinuating or sort of emphasizing because Syl sort of asks that question or brings it up where it's like, if you kill me, you don't get these marks anymore.
Yeah.
This source of payment that you're getting goes away. Kind of hoping it's enough because he knows it's not much, but what other choices he have?
Yeah, it's a very tenuous situation with Gaz. Like, I mean, you find out Gaz is, in major debt, and so that's why, like, he needs this money. Mm-hmm. And so that's why he's willing to put up with this shit. And then also, Gaz is sitting there thinking, like, this dude's dead anyways. He's, it's just a matter of time before he's dead. Mm-hmm. So all I got to do is outweigh him. Mm-hmm. It just turns out, Kaladin's a different fucking dude.
It's also interesting too because I mean, literally, all it is like just stay out of my way. That's all he's basically asking from Gaz is like, take the money, stay out of my way. Basically, don't get in the way of what I'm trying to do. And yeah, like for Gaz, it's an easy bet. He's going to die because they all do.
Yeah, and then. I like that where he's like, stay out of my way. And then it was Sanderson writes, Gaz refused to be intimidated. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the dude is like fucking crouched down in an alley hiding behind barrels. Now he's, no, I'm not going to be intimidated. Like, okay, dude. And then, so he's like, I ain't going to lie for you. If you think one crimstain mark a week will, and he's like, dude, just stay the fuck out of my way. But and so then next part is, that meant the morning would be open. The crew would like that. They could spend Payday losing their spheres on gambling or whores, perhaps forgetting for a short time the miserable lives they lived. I'm curious, like, how many whores are in these camps that these guys, because like all these bridge crew guys, they're not living long enough to stack cash. And they're not getting paid enough to stack cash. So how the fuck are they affording whores and fucking whiskey? There must just be like a massive supply.
Well, did I read that right? That basically they just got 5 marks, which is 5 loaves of bread.
Something like that.
Equivalent to 5 loaves of bread.
It's not much.
So that's a cheap prostitute.
That's what I'm saying. How many prostitutes are there? Like
that's you're gonna get whiskey and a prostitute. Like, is that one shot?
You got to figure like the demand is probably pretty high. So if the price is low, the supply must be really fucking high.
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's
these bridge crews are getting the fucking one-legged fucking prostitutes.
And it's one that's doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think they're getting fucking top shelf prostitutes.
Well, I mean, I know it's like a traveling land or what have you, but I'm not getting the impression that there's these massive like saloons and whorehouses. But he just says it like,
It seems like there are, like, I mean, we know there are like little bars and that kind of stuff because when Kaladin sees Aelin for the first time, that's where like some prostitute comes out of basically a saloon, comes out of one, and then
you're picturing Deadwood here,
kind of, like a similar type of thing, like a Deadwood built on the Shattered Plains. It is like Trixie, they've been there for 6 years, so they've had plenty of time to build up a little city for themselves.
Who is Swearengen's guy? Dan?
Yeah.
I can't remember. He had a nickname, something Dan.
I can't remember what his nickname was. Yeah, he's a fucking great character. One of the all-time great fight scenes in television history. Him versus that other fucking big dude that was working for Hearst.
Yeah. Man, I can't picture the...
dude, like
other
fucking
guy,
like
but I do
pokes
remember
out
the
the
fight
fucking
scene.
dude's eye. Like, I mean, they're
Yeah,
like
they're
fucking
like
just,
all in
I mean,
mud and
it
shit.
is brutal. Like if
Yeah, it's nasty.
if you've never seen it first, you should watch
It's a
fucking
great
Deadwood. But
Great
if
show.
you haven't seen it in a while, like watch that fight scene. That fight scene is fucking dope. It is super brutal.
What? P.T. Farnham.
Yeah, yeah.
That dude.
He's like Gaz, man. He'd make a great Gaz.
Yes. He's smarmy as shit. He's the type of guy, like the way the guy plays the character, the actor does a tremendous job. He's the type of guy that you're like, that dude would always have clammy hands.
Like
You
that,
know what I mean?
yeah. And he like the way like he like fucking bows down and shit when the guy's in his face, but then as soon as the guy's out of the room, like then he puffs out his chest and becomes like starts talking shit, saying all the things that he wishes he had the courage to have said to the guy's face.
Dude, it's classic. It's
Yeah.
a classic. There's so many classic characters on that show. It's
Oh man, he'd
Lou?
make a great Gaz. Like fucking just picturing him as that character. Probably getting too old now, but that's the prototype for a Gaz for sure.
Yeah, now I want to see much more of these saloons all of a sudden for this show. I want them to write in like another Deadwood and just spend a season doing that.
And they could. That could be a spinoff show. Is fucking life in the fucking shattered plain cities.
Yeah, that was one of the beefs I had with Westworld. I like the premise so much that I wish they would have spent more time just like fleshing out the different things that were possible within that world before they went so far. Because by like the third episode, they're going where I went. Wish they would have went on like season 3 or something. I wanted to spend more time in that area, but yeah, let's go back and watch Deadwood, I guess.
Yeah, man, that's one of the downsides of like they've moved on TV shows. I think they've moved too far in the wrong directions because 23, 24 episode seasons, hour-long episodes, that's too much. You lose like the episodes get weaker and diluted because you got to create so much material. But now they're going down to like 8 episode seasons, and that's not enough. Like it's
yeah, you're right.
Too fast paced, and they're losing too much.
Now, and that's especially true in my experience when they have an you can tell there's an over arc. There's character arcs for all these different characters, and when they have to smash it all in, like that even happened with Deadwood. You could tell like as it got to like season 1, it seemed like they were sticking with a plan. And that's why it starts out so great. But then as it moved on to the next couple seasons, it seemed like they basically cut budget, or they said, we need to wrap this fucker up, and it's sort of smashed together a lot of things that were working. At least that's the way I kind of took it to a degree.
Will at times struggles with pacing big time because of 8 episode seasons. I think it'll get better as they get through more seasons, but they struggled with like especially big event episodes. Like the first episode and the last episode are probably the weakest 2 episodes in the show, which is not ideal. Yeah, that's
a massive story though too, right? I mean, we're talking a series of books where you're trying to condense
talking
everything.
like 15 plus books with the prequels and shit. So
something I just watched, and I mention it because one of the things that I've noticed that become very clear why HBO has so many shows that are so successful is they allow the writers a lot more control. There's a show on HBO called The White Lotus, which I like a lot. It's only a handful of episodes, but it works tremendously well. The writer is the producer, director, creator, all of it. He has full control, and it shows because all the character arcs are tremendously well done, and it's all put together in a way that complements each one, and it's complete, But it's like
you can tell, like
episodes.
like HBO and Netflix, you can tell that the higher ups are less involved in the creation process. That it's the creators.
compare that stuff to like I can't even watch CBS, ABC type stuff anymore. I did
Even
when I was
Amazon,
younger,
you
but
can tell Amazon is much more hands-on. You can tell it. I mean, you can tell by, it there's much more formula to it's much more formulaic and than like Netflix, and in Disney is the same.
I tend to find, I mean, and sometimes it can still work, but I tend to find it feels much more pandering, and it's just less distinctive.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not it. I mean, look, I mean, it can lead to a bigger show that has a bigger audience if you are, following like a set formula. Like you could put out like something like Marvel where they got pretty standard formulas that pump out $1 billion fucking movies. And so I mean they attract massive audiences, but I don't watch those movies and think like, man, that was the fucking greatest movie ever. Like I don't get like a Matrix type feel from it or something like that, or Fight Club, like something that's just completely original. I think they're good. I like them. I enjoy them. I'm not shitting on them. They're good, but they're more just like popcorn entertainment type of things where it's just fun movies, but like they're not reinventing the wheel or anything.
So I would say that does not apply to like a Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul at all.
No.
Those are completely distinctive stories that I haven't really seen anything very similar. You know what I'm saying? And like in other circumstances, I mean, there's character arcs, but it's done in a completely distinctive, singular way.
That's why I hope like HBO or Netflix gets Stormlight Archives or or King Killer Chronicles. Like I hope Netflix or HBO gets those because you don't want fucking those to get cookie cutter, where it's someone trying, you got a bunch of different people all trying to tell you what needs to happen for it to work instead of just telling the story and attracting an audience to it because it's a fucking dope story and it'll bring in a big audience as long if you just get the fuck out of the way and let the fucking book do its thing.
I mean, I wish that was the formula. I wish the formula would become, which it seems to have to some degree with a lot of HBO shows, which going all the way back to like Sopranos and Rome.
But you need two things. Like I mean, like the writer has to fucking have the money and the balls to create a good deal
or
where he's got enough control. Yeah, he's got enough. The writer has to have enough control over the story to make sure that they don't butcher it. And then,
and that can also be the production group in itself could say, we love this story so much, we want this story told the way you're telling it, and legitimately get out of the way. Yeah. Now, a lot of people they're told that, and then it completely gets fucking butchered and hammered. The more people that are involved in it and have their own vision of what works, right, rather than just like you said, telling the story, like getting out of the way. Telling the story in the best way possible.
That's where you can see like a Sanderson or a Rothfuss will have a good leg up. Is they're already successful. They've already they made money. They don't need.
These already have massive audiences.
Yeah, they don't need. They're not going to struggle to fucking put food on the plate. So they don't need to fucking sell themselves short.
Game of Thrones came out with that.
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's a big part of what that was, which I didn't even know it until I started watching it. And then you see really quickly like, oh, this is something special. This is something different. Like it's got that singularity to it, which is what got me to watch it. They did such a great job in producing that first season that got me to not only watch it, but then read the books.
Yeah.
And it's fucking amazing. It was the first like fantasy I delved into, like literally a series within fantasy. So I kind of opened the door,
Yeah, but so then he goes and he leaves Gaz, and Gaz, douchey as always. You aren't going to change anything. Those men are bridesmen for a reason. God, you're a douche.
And he's like heckling him. You don't have authority. You're not some squad leader on the. He just, dude, stop. Like, It's a really funny example.
Man, you hear me?
Yeah. This is a great example of like that muted what do you call it? Like, you know, flaccid jackass that like almost like what you're talking about with Elhokar, like, I have a huge penis. Like he's yelling this in public. Like, dude, you're the guy yelling that that this other person doesn't have authority. You're clearly missing something, bro.
Walking on, like Kaladin walking off with a supermodel. She'll never sleep with you. She'll never love you. But yeah, so Kaladin, I like this aspect where it's like Kaladin left the alleyway behind. He's wrong. So walked around in front of his face, hovering there while he moved. She cocked her head at him. I really want to see the visuals of Syl, like the way she walks and stuff, where like she fucking just like standing on his shoulder, and then just as he's walking, just walks around and staring him in the face, and she's just like hovering in the air. But like, it's always got it where like she's walking on the ground, but defying fucking gravity and shit.
Yeah, it's a really great opportunity to do something that, frankly, I haven't seen before, and if done if given, and I know I've said this a million times, but if done the right way, can be something that's really, really special, that's really cool because of how interesting the dynamic with her is and what it represents, because then we're going to get pattern and we're going to see other Spren, but how she's different and how this link within the two of them is very different, and then what that ends up becoming and what that means to the world in itself and everything else. It's a really interesting element just to show in a visual format, again, of something I haven't seen before. And I know I've mentioned this a million times, but what comes to mind is like a Tinkerbell, which obviously that wouldn't work in the way that this is presented, especially given the fact that she's amorphous. She's not just one thing, one size at all times. She can kind of be all these different shapes and sizes and colors, and it's like raw emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she could make herself as big as Kaladin, but she chooses to be a little tiny person for some reason.
Yeah, but it's super. It's awesome, and I love this his realization of authority doesn't come from a rank. Where does it come from? Asked Syl. From the men who give it to you. That's the only way to get it. Lead by example, basically, is what he's saying here.
In this situation, that is the case. It's not typically the case. I mean, for the most part, people are followers and will fucking follow. If someone takes the lead, most people are going to fucking get in line. That's just human nature. Most people are followers. They just do what they're told. Mm-hmm. You see it in school. It's a bunch of fucking order followers, and everybody's just, following bell to bell, and whatever the teacher says, they fucking do it. They don't cause the teachers trouble. They don't, it's a lot. The people who stand up and are like, no, and I'm not doing this shit, and defy the authority, they stand out because it's rare.
Well, and I'm sure you've seen the Pavlovian experiments where they bring a bunch of people into a room, and only one person is told, when we ring this bell, stand up, and then we ring it again, sit down, and then everybody else that comes to the room start doing it because one person was doing it.
Yeah, there's like
standing up, sitting down, standing up, and nobody knows why. They just look at each other like, "Oh, I guess this is what we're doing now."
I can't remember if this was an actual experiment or just something I read in a book where like they were doing something where they would put like a banana or something up on a ladder, and then like, a monkey would, climb up to get it, and they would like shock the monkeys or something like that. They would do something where they cause pain to all the monkeys, that when someone would go for the banana, and then they would start replacing the monkeys one by one. And then eventually they got to a point where they would have the banana up on a ladder, and then when a new monkey was put in the room and it would go up the ladder, all the other monkeys would go and just beat the shit out of that monkey and stop it from grabbing it. And these are all in this, it would get to the point where they had replaced all the monkeys, so none of the monkeys that had been shocked were there. So it was all new monkeys, and they'd just been trained, conditioned. They conditioned themselves to fucking beat the shit out of any monkey who tried to go for the banana, and they didn't know why they were doing it anymore. Like the original monkeys knew, like, if one of us goes for the banana, we all feel pain. But when they started replacing it one by one, they just all started doing it because that's what everybody else was doing. And so they trained it, and it eventually it got down to none of the monkeys that were beating the shit out of the other monkey had ever experienced any kind of negative consequences from going after the banana. They'd never been shocked or anything like that.
They're just fitting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that is, I mean, there's been so many experiences. I thought you were going to talk about one of the ones where they're basically having someone push a button, and all they hear on the other end is someone screaming in pain, and they just keep telling them, "Yeah, please just continue to push the button." And then only a couple people were like, "Dude, I'm not going to kill this guy. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing this." Yeah. But most people would just do it, and they're not doing anything but just saying, please push the button." Yeah. They're not holding them hostage. They're just literally asking them to do something, and most people just do it.
Yeah.
It didn't even bother them, or it didn't bother them enough not to do it.
But
man, that's nuts, man.
This situation's a little bit different because you're talking about guys that are fucking on the edge.
Yeah.
Their lives are already shit. So,
well, yeah, that's what we were saying earlier. They have nothing to lose. You know, there's no way to demote them. So at this point, but I mean, what's interesting about that lead by example type situation in this circumstance is, I mean, I guess it's kind of, let's at least make this the best we can, or it's also in the sense of, well, I guess he leads by example. They see the results of what he's doing, and they see that he's willing to put his ass on the line and to do things that are incredible, and then it seems to motivate them to strive to want to be better. Period, and then also follow someone that is encouraging, or that's actually earning their respect.
Yeah, trying to save their lives, literally saving their lives. And so, yeah, and that's how he's got to fucking earn the respect, because fucking cracking the whip's not going to fucking do it. So he needs them to willingly follow him because he's got no real authority.
I like that but even still they test it. Like with Rock betting, like I bet that's a light log. Like, so they go up and check it out. But again, that would kind of be human instinct in this circumstance where it's like, I don't trust this fucking guy. Who does this fucking guy think he is? Which, dude, that's I mean, I hate to admit it, but that's my approach to virtually anyone I don't know. Like, who's this fucking guy?
Yeah. This fucking dude doing. Look at him. Look how hard he's working. What's wrong with him? Fucking nerd.
I don't even mean in that, sir. I just mean anyone, period. We're like, who's this fucking guy?
Just walking into a store, every person you see. What the fuck's his problem? You fucking buying those chips. You don't fucking need those chips. You eat all of them.
You gonna eat all those? I just start asking people that about anything they grab. You gonna eat all those?
Yeah.
Oh, you like those, huh? Do you like those?
You would like those. You would like it.
Big surprise. Just walk away.
Shit. Typical. But yeah, so he goes up to one of the carpenters and he borrows a plank from him, and he starts running back and forth with this plank on his shoulder, practicing running, walking, jogging, practice carrying the plank on his shoulder, then carrying it up high, arms stretched out. Before long, he drew a small crowd, workers in the lumber yard, some soldiers, and a large number of bridgemen. Some from the other bridge crews called jibes, but the members of Bridge 4 were more withdrawn. Many ignored him. Others, grizzled Teff, young-faced Dunny, several more stood watching in a line as if they couldn't believe what he was doing. And so he says he's running out of frustration, that boiling, churning pot of anger within, anger at himself for failing Tien, anger at the Almighty for creating a world where some dined in luxury while others died carrying bridges. But yeah, he's not only trying to earn the respect, but he's also fucking just working out like his fucking frustrations on his lot in life.
He is doing that, and then also it's important to recognize, and this does get emphasized, but I mean, he's working fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like very, very hard. Like, I mean, he falls in exhaustion as if he's strained every single muscle in his body. But it is interesting to get another one of those suggestions of Tien, because we get that a lot in this beginning where it's like, man, this guy's got demons, man.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
I mean, I know,
he mentions Tien a lot, and you don't find out what happens until much later on.
But the emphasis is big too, because anger at himself for failing Tien, you know, and he's got all this, you know, anger and like hatred towards his lot versus others' lots in life. And and then even it goes as far as here a few months after Tien's death. So we get that sort of clear explanation of like what has actually happened there. I think by this point we know Tien. We know.
You know, you know. Wait, I don't know if you know. Yeah, you do get a flashback where you see Tien's his brother. Yeah,
okay,
you do.
Yeah. Well, I remember initially when it was first stated, I just assumed it was like.
Well, I don't know. Like, I can't remember if you know Tien's his brother yet, because there is a flashback where he helps his dad in surgery, but I can't remember if Tien is mentioned in that fucking chapter. Like, it's the second flashback where you meet Tien.
I mean, obviously we know this now, but I do remember it playing out for a while where I'm like, okay, so this Tien person was very close to him. I remember first thinking it was like his girlfriend or his wife, or, you know, someone that it was that type of dynamic. You don't know from the name Tien, you know, but then as it goes on, yeah, you find out it was his little bro, which you know, Kaladin basically might as well just shot him.
Yeah, Sanderson does a good job where he lets you know that Kaladin is distraught over what happens to his brother, that his brother is killed, so you know his brother is going to die, and then you're getting the flashback of all the steps that led to it. And in this book, the flashbacks are all Kaladin's life from a young kid until the point where his brother dies, and also what happened to, you know, make him go from leading a crew to becoming a slave. So you got kind of two flashbacks in one. You got the what happened to Tien, and then what happened to make him a slave.
Yeah, it's really wild to also consider the fact that not only was he leading people in battle, he was like doing a tremendous job of it, and then he's a slave. And it takes a long while to find out what actually happened, you know, to actually get that whole sort of story. But you can tell he was wronged, you know, that gets emphasized. But yeah, the way Sanderson feeds it to us is pretty great, because he's allowing us to figure it out over time while giving little emphasis throughout that just sort of feeds that curiosity and eventually gets us to, like you said earlier, I think that's a big compliment to what he does, is he does satisfy you at the end of the book.
Yeah.
And towards the end, you're getting all of these answers to things and a culmination of things coming together, which it's really satisfying for the reader.
Yeah, and he starts to demonstrate, you know, like Kaladin slowly but surely building respect. And like you get like a little taste of it where he walks up to the carpenters and takes a ladle of their water, which normally they would like fucking, you know, turn you away, get you out of there for trying to drink out of the water. But he's earned that measure of respect where they just saw him fucking busting ass. And so they, you know, they don't object when he comes and gets that water. So you get like that first little building block of he's starting to fucking create a reputation. And then, then he heads back over and they're, you know, Rock is picking up the board and like testing it out, thinking he's carrying some fucking like hollowed out log or something.
Yeah, I love that. Where Taft basically says he bet us a few of us a chip each that you would use a lightweight board to impress us. Which again, yeah, it's great because, you know, it emphasizes they're witnessing it, but they're still in dismay, you know, and then they're going to test him too because they don't fucking trust this guy. Why would they? Yeah, they're actually not fans of him right now. Before that, they were probably just, you know,
and well, like, yeah, especially too because he's like, who's this fucking brown noser gonna fucking order us around?
Yeah.
And then he goes and then you see him like busting ass, and you're like, wow, all right, that's
Well,
that's
have
fucking
to,
different.
from that perspective, you would have to think, all right, what's this dude's agenda? Like, what is this? Like, because they haven't been ordered around by anybody, right? They basically have Gaz sort of telling them what to do, but he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, like, they're basically been left alone. They're told to do these things, but then they're basically left alone. Suddenly, there's this dude ordering them around. Like, you'd have to think, what's this guy's agenda? Like, what's his deal?
Yeah, and then
but
then this helps to start breaking it down. So they see him busting ass, and then it's got to be like, well, now I'm totally confused. Like, I mean, like this doesn't make any sense. Why is he fucking killing himself? And putting him through, like, he's not. No one else is doing it. So, like, what is he doing? And then so they go, and he's like, you're dismissed for lunch. Kaladin told him, we have afternoon bridge duty, so we'll be back here in an hour. Symbol at the mess hall, last bell before sundown. Our camp chore today is cleaning up after supper. Last one to arrive has to do the pots. And they head out, and then he goes, fucking walks off, and then slumps down, wheezing, sank to the ground and stretched out. Every muscle in his body, his legs burned. When he tried to make his hand into a fist, fingers were too weak to fully comply. I mean, he just like fucking put his body through the ringer.
Yeah, no joke. He wasn't just doing this for show. He's not an Elhokar. Yeah, he's seriously, well, and also Elhokar's still risking his life, but he's seriously putting himself through the ringer. So not only, I mean, it does make us, as the reader, really respect Kaladin that much more as well, that he's willing to put in the work, that it does take to try to get to the objective.
And then you get to an important aspect of the chapter, because you get, eventually Kaladin felt a light touch on his chest. He opened his eyes and found Syl lying prone in the air, face towards her feet. Her feet were toward the wall, but her posture, indeed the way her dress hung, made it seem as if she were standing upright and face toward the ground. So again, I'd like to see, those aspects of her. I'd like to see on a show. But then it's like, Kaladin, I have something to tell you. And Kaladin, this is important. He felt a slight jolt of energy on his eyelid. She walked in the air as if circumventing an invisible sphere until she was standing up in the right direction. I like that too, like that. Walking like she's walking on a sphere, like walking up around a globe that's not there.
That I did want to mention too. He felt a slight jolt of energy on his eyelid. Like, there's that other part where I think it was a few chapters ago on the bridge run where she like kind of smacks him in the face, and he actually gets a jolt of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is sort of emphasizing what it ends up becoming, how he can actually bring in that energy and then use it. These are like little examples sort of feeding to that. It just kind of plants, I think it plants to a degree in your subconscious. If you're not reading too closely, then it's just whatever it is. It's like she did something and now he's awake. But the fact that it's actually pushing
it definitely points to that she's different, because she's like coming into their world, and she's not just some translucent fucking mirage almost. She's like got some physical presence in their world that she can actually, interact physically with objects in their world.
One of the interesting things that Sanderson has to do here as well is, like you're saying, she's different. We wouldn't know that, right? If he wasn't telling us through her saying, why am I acting like this? Why do I know what sarcasm is? Why am I questioning these things? Without those things being implied or mentioned, we would think this is what everybody has. Or we would think more, it would seem to us, this is a world he's created, and there's this Syl with Kaladin. For all we know, this happens to everybody, But he has to emphasize that it doesn't, that they're both special in these so many ways. And it's really great, the delivery mechanism of her innocence and her questioning and, why is this happening to me? And, her excitement at sort of learning things, but her confusion about it. It's a great way to like deliver all of that and unfurl it to the reader.
Yeah, and she goes, I have decided that I'm glad you kept your word to Gaz, even if he is a disgusting person. Took Kaladin a moment to realize what she was talking about. The spheres? She nodded. I thought you might break your word, but I'm glad you didn't. All right. Well, thank you for telling me, I guess. Kaladin, she said petulantly, making fists at her side. This is important, which is extremely important when you realize that she's an honor sprint. So honor is massively important to her, and so like him keeping his word, like part of it. The reason it's important to her is that for her to become her full self, he needs to become they need to conjoin with each other. And you see that the more they conjoin with each other, the more she comes into herself and the more he comes into himself with his powers.
Yeah, that's a great thing to mention. And I like the fact that I have decided that I'm glad you kept your word to Gaz. So she's thinking about, she's witnessing what he's doing. Sometimes I thought she could read his mind, but what she's doing is witnessing what he's doing and then kind of being a judge.
And I mean, right? she is becoming herself. She's coming into herself again. And it's not even just like she's becoming an honor sprint. She is remembering that she's an honor sprint. So it's just like this. It's this instinct in her that she knows that she doesn't understand why honor is important to her yet. But, she's starting to remember that she's an honor sprint and that honor is important to her, and not lying and being truthful and these kind of things are important to her. And so she's becoming herself again, whereas it's not something that she is changing into an honor sprint from like a wind sprint or something. It's that she forgot who she was and she's slowly but surely remembering. So, and this is just part of her nature. She just doesn't understand why it's part of her nature yet. And so it's that first little inkling of she doesn't know why it's important to her, but eventually you figure out, she's an honor sprint. So obviously being honorable is extremely important to them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to point that out. I guess they are sort of interlocked, right? They're in this together.
Yeah.
Really when it comes down to it, they sort of feed off each other.
Yeah.
He becomes better as she becomes better and vice versa.
Yeah, the more in tune he becomes with her, the more powerful he becomes, the more in tune, and the side effect for her is the more in tune he becomes with her is she becomes more herself again. She starts to remember things she had forgotten.
Hence, I know what a lie is.
Yes. Yes. And so she's like, no, I'm, and he's like, he trailed off, then rested his head back against the wall. Still, I can barely breathe, let alone think. Please, just tell me what's bothering you. I know what a lie is, she said, moving over and sitting on his knee. A few weeks ago, I didn't even understand the concept of lying, but now I'm happy that you didn't lie. Don't you see? No, I'm changing, she shivered. It must have been an intentional action for her entire figure fuzzed for a moment. I know things I didn't just a few days ago. It feels so strange. Well, I guess that's a good thing. I mean, the more you understand, the better, right? She looked down. When I found you near the chasm after the high storm yesterday, she whispered, you were going to kill yourself, weren't you? Kaladin didn't respond. Yesterday, that was an eternity ago. And I like that reminder that because it has been a few chapters. So you go through a little bit of period of time. You go through all those interlude chapters and then fucking first two chapters with the chasmfiend, and then you're back with Kaladin, and it's easy to forget that all this stuff that's happening right now is hours after he was about to kill himself.
Yeah, and yeah, a reminder of how big that transition was, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because nothing's easy coming for this fucking guy, dude. Everything is insufferable, right?
Yeah.
That's his whole theme. That's his whole life and motif is everything is massive suffering. This dude is what's his face? He's Camus' Sisyphus.
Yeah. Yeah.
He loves the suffering. He thrives off it. Well, actually, he doesn't love it.
He does
still
not.
hates it.
He hates it, and he does not thrive off of it.
Yeah,
He
what am I
really
saying?
struggles with it.
But it becomes how he defines himself,
Yeah.
right?
He just perseveres, but no, he's not a big fan of it. But yeah, so she's like, I gave you a leaf, poisonous leaf. You could have used it to kill yourself or someone else. And she's like, today I know what death is. Why do I know what death is, Kaladin? But I still love that fucking aspect of she gave him a poisonous leaf, and he's like, oh, you just saved my life. Giving me, it's such a ridiculous gift, and it's such an innocent, ridiculous gift that you've turned my frown upside down.
It's one of the best examples of comic relief I have found in literature. It's
especially with something so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a hard way to make a humorous moment out of a guy about to fucking commit suicide.
Well, and not only is it humorous for Kaladin and turns him around, it's humorous for us.
Yeah.
In a heavy ass fucking moment, and we're in Kaladin's shoes at that point.
Yeah.
It's fucking great, dude. I mean, it's a tremendous. I mean, it's like the best example of comic relief. And frankly, I would emphasize comedy saves lives. So I'll let the comedians be comedians and make fun of shit.
But yeah, then so Kaladin's like, you've always been odd for a Spren, even from the start, from the very start. And he hesitated, thinking back. No, the first few times she'd come, she'd acted like any other Windspren, playing pranks on him, sticking his shoe to the floor, then hiding. Even when she'd persisted with him during the months of his slavery, she acted mostly like any other Spren, losing interest in things quickly, fitting it around. And so she's like, yesterday I didn't know what... Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention, so that actually makes a lot of sense to what you were mentioning before, because he was Mr. Down in the Dumps. Right? He wouldn't have been honorable at that time. He's escaping. He's just doing whatever he can to basically, not survive. We didn't get to read all of that, but it's pretty much emphasized that, when we first see him, he's just Mr. Down in the Dumps.
Yeah.
And he hates life. He hates everybody. He's ripping up maps, being a dick.
She's made a massive jump after he decided not to kill himself. Like, you remember, she leaves when he gets real down the dump. She leaves.
That's right, yeah.
And then she comes back as he's about to fucking end it all. And then once he decides, all right, I'm going to fucking stand up again and I'm going to fight. Then now I know what a lie is. And like, she's, has a major change is with him. He had a major change, and then she has a major change.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, how it's almost like a therapy. It's therapy for the two of them.
Yeah.
Right? They're witnessing each other's metamorphosis and both benefit from that. It's like a group therapy session between the two of them.
Yeah, they're both tied to each other. I mean, it is they're 100% tied to each other. I mean, that's fucking clear. So she's like, yesterday I didn't know what death was. Today I do. Months ago I didn't know I was acting odd for a Spren, but I grew to realize that I was. How do I even know how a Spren is supposed to act? She shrank down, looking smaller. What's happening to me? What am I? I don't know. Does it matter? Shouldn't it? But that's an example of like, she's those kind of questions are important, where she's like, how do I even know how a Spren is supposed to act? That's not her changing into something new. That is her remembering something, because how would you know unless this is a memory? Because if you're remembering how a Spren is supposed to act, you're remembering something you previously knew.
That's interesting. So and I like how, and I know they're talking about it, but I like how the two of them are basically having like a bit of an identity crisis, where he's also like, I don't know what I am. I mean, am I a bridgeman? Am I a surgeon? Am I a soldier, a slave? And he's struggled with that basically his whole life. But then he picks up a spear and suddenly, oh, this is what I am. But then once he's a soldier, then it's like, well, maybe I should be a surgeon. Dude has trouble focusing on one thing. But yeah, to her, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, I guess that does make sense. That so what maybe that ends up coming out later, but in terms of her metamorphosis, was she a spren for someone else? That person died, and then she gets connected to Kaladin, or is her birth Kaladin? It's like a rebirth from whatever she had in the past. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the spren.
Yeah, you find out more. You definitely find out more about Spren and what the fuck's up with them. By the end of the fourth book, you have a full, as full a grasp as he's explained of what the fucking Spren are and what the fuck's up with them.
Well, because like with the Spren and pattern, it feels like there's a matrix, a force. There's a chi to everything, right? There's
you also see with pattern with Shallan, like Pattern's super stupid in the beginning. Like there's something, and she's like looking at him, and is like, man, there's something wrong with this thing. Like it seems like it's not got a fucking brain. And then slowly but surely it's starts developing a personality and intelligence and so it's growing.
Yeah. So it's like there's like a coalescence of energies.
It's like when
feed off of one another.
Yeah. When he first linked up with her, he's the stupid idiot. Same with Syl. And slowly but surely, as Shallan grows and Kaladin grows, so do the Spren. But it's memories, not even they're not even like just growing up. Like a kid becoming an adult. It's like a person with amnesia slowly recovering their memories.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's the thing that's interesting, or that I'm trying to think of, like the origin, because it seems like they would do a up and down and up and down. You know what I mean? Where if they had been to a state that Kaladin rises her back to, if she was at that state before, then she would have lived in that way with someone else. Right? If it's the same sort of encapsulation, maybe not. Maybe
yeah. You definitely will find out what the fuck's up. It's further in though, but as for now, she has him. You aren't angry at me for bringing you that leaf? So if you hadn't interrupted me, I'd have stepped off into the chasm. That leaf was what I needed. It was the right thing somehow. Glad you're not angry, though I do not think you're to blame for what's happening to me. Before I met you, I never had to think. Though I do think that you're to blame for what's happening to me. Before I met you, I never had to think about death or lying. That's how I am, he said dryly, bringing death and lies wherever I go.
There you go.
Being the Night Watcher. She frowned. That was, he began. Yes, she said. That was sarcasm. She cocked her head. I know what sarcasm is. Then she smiled deviously. I know what sarcasm is. Stormfather, Kaladin thought, looking into those gleeful little eyes. That strikes me as ominous. I like that. I like her little prank aspect of, like, in the beginning, she's sitting there gluing his shoes to the floor and shit like that. The childlike innocence of Syl is entertaining to read, especially in combined with Kaladin's dourness and seriousness.
Absolutely. Yeah, it plays off it in a really great way.
It's what makes Kaladin such a great character and so fun to read. It's because if Syl's not there, like, Kaladin would be, his dourness and his depressive nature, it'd be tough to read, to consistently read.
Well, and that again is also, like, we talk about, it'd be nice to see Syl visually. Imagine the circumstance of this guy that's just glowering, pissed off, angry, sitting at the sitting wherever he is, all pissed off or here exhausted, and then Syl floats in and she's all fucking, she's all, I know what sarcasm is.
Yeah.
As they talk about suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it ends with, her kind of talking about what we've been talking about. So wait, this sort of thing has never happened to you before? I don't know. I can't remember anything farther back than about a year ago when I first met you, when I first saw you. Really? That's not odd, Syl said, shrugging translucent shoulders. Most Spren don't have long memories. She hesitated. I don't know why I know that. Again, showing that these are memories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe this is normal. You could have gone through this cycle before, but you've just forgotten it. That's not very comforting. I don't like the idea of forgetting. But don't death and lying make you uncomfortable? They do, but if I were to lose these memories... She glanced in the air, and Kaladin traced her movements, noting a pair of windspren darting through the sky on a gusty breeze, uncaring and free. Scared to go onward, Kaladin said, but terrified to go back to what you were. She nodded. I know how you feel, he said. Come on, I need to eat, and there's some things I want to pick up after lunch.
Very interesting. Their similarities just keep being hearkened repeatedly here, in terms of just within the chapter and their inner connectedness. It's interesting. It's like their evolution is hand in hand, which we keep talking about that, but
he does a good job of like he builds this growth between Kaladin and Syl in the first book, and then he reinforces it with Shallan and Pattern in the second book, and you see a similar thing play out. It's different personalities, but
different stages of life too. Like Shallan. It's a really interesting circumstance for her because she finds Yasna and she's like, okay, she makes this big choice to come clean, right? And then like do in her mind like the right thing because now she gets to be Yasna's student for real, legitimately, right? And then that's basically taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So now she has to become her own without much training and, she's so uncertain of herself to begin with. And then she ends up with Pattern as this sounding board, but also helping her to like sort of, fit into the world, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but
yeah, I mean, they definitely have a codependent relationship. Both Syl and Kaladin and Pattern and Shallan. And, and I also think it's interesting is the different kind of cultures between the Spren is like Pattern likes lies. And so, like,
he talks about lies all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. He loves them. He's like, talks about it like, that's a delicious lie. Shit like that. Whereas Syl is, making a stand here is like, she's an honor Spren. So she doesn't like lies. So there's different cultures with the Spren too. So they're not even, it's much like humans with different cultures and different from different regions and different things like that, and so we're seeing the same thing play out with Spren as well.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely a cool. I can't think of a circumstance or an example where I've read something quite this similar. Or delivered in such a way. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. And the fact that he's able to sort of craft and get it to the point of where it is within, 220 pages, pretty impressive, especially given that we have all these other storylines that he's describing and how the world works with shard plate and shard blades and everything he did with Zeth. I mean, it's pretty great, man.
Yeah. And it's a lot of people, again, they talk about like this book, they're like, it's a slow burn. I don't agree. I think what people are mistaking is that sometimes it's hard to settle into a world that is this different than the real world. So sometimes, like when you're reading fantasy, it can take a minute to settle into it because it is so strange and exotic, and your ability to adapt to this strange world, that can vary, and it can take a minute, but that's not that it's definitely not a slow burn. There's crazy shit happening from Jump Street.
Yes. Well, I remember when I first started reading it, it's something I haven't read before, so I don't know what I'm getting into. But once I read Zeth's chapter, I'm sold. I'm like, this is fucking great. Like the what he's doing, the way he's writing, how that sort of magic works in this world, and what is actually being, what I'm visually seeing through the pages is incredible. And then going to Bridge 4, I'm done, dude. Like at that point, that's it. I'm fully 100% on board, and that's a few chapters in, man.
Yeah.
Like that didn't take long to get there. I understand where you're coming from or what you're explaining, and that's definitely giving credit where credit's due in terms of reading a book of a completely new world with different cultures, different not languages, but different cultures, and all these different elements, like what we said with Syl and pattern. I mean, that's very, very different. But it's tremendous the way he's able to utilize these things. And yeah, I guess I could say what I have seen statements of online is like people talk about reading Sanderson, start with this, don't start with Stormlight Archives because it's so much. It's like it's too much to take in, or it's just a lot to take in, however you want to put it. And I guess if you read a full series, and this isn't done, I know that, but if you read a full series, you could say it's a slow burn after you've read 5 books. You know?
See, I if I was going to recommend Sanderson, I would say start with Stormlight, and the reason is because I think his writing has improved greatly over the period of time from like his first books to the time where he gets to Stormlight, and so like if you start with like Elantris or Warbreaker, they're plenty good stories, but you could easily come away with like, I mean, some of the characters are a little flat. There's a lot of exposition and a lot of fucking speechy shit, and it doesn't feel like natural conversations. A lot of the characters when they're talking to each other, I'm like, this feels like this is super stiff dialogue. Like this would need like Elantris is a book. Elantris is a book that I like the story. I don't like the characters so much, and I don't like the dialogue. But I'd like to see it made into a movie because I like the story. I think the story he created is great. I just don't think he was very good at writing dialogue or developing characters yet because they felt very bland and the dialogue was very stiff. And so when he gets to Stormlight, like he's clearly a really good writer by the time he gets to Stormlight. It was like when Elantris, like, yeah, he's a great idea man, great story creator, but he's not a phenomenal writer yet. I think he is now. And so I would tell people, to me, it's easier to appreciate like the flaws and things and to be able to overlook them if you already know that what the guy eventually becomes.
Yeah, I hear you, because if you start with what you say is a great story but weak on some of the elements that end up making up the story, you may be hesitant to read his other work, right? Because you can just be like, well, this guy, he's got this going, but these other things could be kind of weak. Yeah, I hear where you're coming from with that. It's interesting. One of the authors I read recently, I reread a book from way back. Their most famous book, I don't even get through the first few pages. Or at least recently I tried, and I was just like, I wasn't really that into it. But their newest book is fucking tremendous. I mean, it was like 1,100 pages, and I read it in like a week. Which that's kind of saying a lot for me. But I mean, other people might do that in 2 days. I don't know. But,
and I should also say, like, it's with anything, the shit is subjective. There's a lot of people that read Elantris and they think it's fucking his best book. They think it's phenomenal. They love it. So, like, I'm not even shitting on Elantris. Like I said, I think it's a good story. I definitely think people should read it. And especially if you like Stormlight and you haven't read it, it's definitely worth reading. And it kind of ties into the whole Cosmere universe aspects of it. So I think it's worth reading. And, a lot of people really love it. So don't let me like fucking color your perception and act like I'm dismissing the story.
Well,
I just
what's really funny
is as far as like what I'm recommending. The reason I would recommend Stormlight is I think he's a more complete writer, and I think it's easier to see someone's best work and work backwards and be able to appreciate it than to start with something that someone could think, could have a reaction like mine. But if I had started with Elantris, would I have got to Stormlight? I don't know.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting about what you're talking about there, my favorite author that I've ever read, I started with at that time was their biggest book. I didn't know it. It was just what was recommended to me. It made all the difference because I ended up reading everything else they've written. And a lot of those other things, since that time, the book of his that's been the most recommended, I recently read, and it doesn't do it for me compared to the other book. It's vastly different than the other things he's written. And if I would have started with that, I don't know if I would have read his other works. It's not that it's not good. Other people freaking love it. But for me, again, and it's really funny because you talk about subjectivity. Dude, like talking about books and music, you're on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
tough
so polarizing.
That's why I don't give like a lot of recommendations where I'm like, you have to read this book because of this, and this. I just tell people like, this is a fucking dope book. You should check it out. Like, and I don't like go into like, I don't give them, warnings about like, it's a great book, but this and this and this. And like, or like, it's so great because of this. I don't like, I'm just like, man, I thought this book was fucking phenomenal. You should check it out. And then that's it. I'll leave it at that. And because they might hate it. They might fucking read it and fucking hate it. There are people that absolutely despise fucking this book or Kingkiller Chronicles, and I fucking think they're phenomenal. So it's extremely subjective. So I don't even like when people do like real long reviews, I'm like, man, it's such a subjective thing. Like, I don't think you can really, experience it for other people.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, and there's lots of music that at certain times in my life I thought was garbage, and a few years later it's my favorite thing to listen to. And I mean, the timing is an element that gets involved as well. But what comes to mind when you mention that, somebody recommended a book to me that was their favorite book, and it was like one of the only books I just didn't finish because I was so disgusted with the story that I couldn't do it. And I've never read anything else the author's written, and it's a hugely popular author, but I hated it. So I was like, this isn't for me.
But there's
and now I hate the person that recommended it. I hate them. That's how far I've taken it.
There is a book, a Camus book that you recommended, but like when I read it, I hated the character so much. Yeah, I fucking hated that character. Where it was like I hated being in that person's mind. I was like, I fucking hate this dude. This dude is a fucking psychopath.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the point, though. A big part of the point was that he is so. I don't know if psychopath would be the right word. It'd be more like socio or even like just detached. And that was kind of the point. Is like if it's kind of society thrusting judgment upon someone for not acting in the way that they see as appropriate.
It felt like you're reading a book where you're like inside Jeffrey Dahmer's head.
I that's way further than I would state it.
I'm talking about just like a cold-blooded non-human. Like, this dude does not seem like a normal fucking human with actual emotions and shit. Like, there's something wrong with this fucking person.
Well, yeah, and society castigates them for it, right?
Yeah.
And like literally. So, but that in itself is why it was so significant at the time it was written. I think it's so many people love it now. Is just it puts you in that position of who gets to choose and what's appropriate and blah blah blah. So that in that sense, it's pretty relevant. But I also had to analyze it for a class. So I got really into it.
The reason, I think if I wasn't in his head and I was in the other character's head, then I could appreciate more like the other aspects of the story. But I hated being in that person's head. Like it just felt so wrong. Like there's something wrong with this fucking person that it was hard for me to read. Whereas like, you could read it and feel something totally different, or someone else could read it and also totally different. But it just like shows that dichotomy of just like some shit hits people way different.
Well, and then also consider the way I'm coming to it. If I'm reading it for fun, I might hate it. If I'm reading it because I had to choose from a group of books that I have to go super deep analysis on and compare it to another book, well, that's going to be a completely different approach. Because now I'm looking at the elements that are involved, what works, what doesn't work, what's significant, tying in the themes and the subjects to another book that I've read and what that does, how that works, what are the similarities. That's a completely different approach. And then that gives me a completely different perspective to then approach the book with than if I was just trying to read something for fun. Because a lot of times if I'm trying to read something from that other perspective, it's garbage to me, because I'm approaching it from a different mind state. Talk about subjectivity. I mean, shit, man, that's like one of the better examples of it, or pretty good one, pretty clear one.
But let's see. So next episode, we will be back at the Shattered Plains, and we'll be getting the aftermath of the chasmfiend hunt. So we're going to learn a little bit more about like Dalinar and Sadeas' relationship and those kind of aspects.
A lot of politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it calms down. So after you get that first kind of wild introduction, then things kind of start to calm down, and you start getting into the politics and a little bit more into the relationships between the different groups.
It's a long chapter.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get any further than that because it's over an hour long chapter.
Ooh, okay. And then the next one actually does go back to Cal, so his childhood. Interesting.
Yeah, so with an hour long fucking chapter, that's a lot to cover. So it's one of the things, like, normally we typically would cover more than that, but Sanderson, some of his chapters are so fucking long that it's hard to, cover to, the way we cover these things. Like it's hard to cover, 3-4 chapters.
And like, for example, that next chapter is also pretty dense.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a couple chapters we've covered where, it's so the beginning of the whole chasmfiend hunt, that whole hunt in itself is chock filled with Dalinar's like this, Adolin's like this, here's the dynamic between them, this is what shard plate's like. I mean, there's so many of like these world building elements, especially early chapters, there's so many world building elements that those are relevant to talk about because we're getting to know this world in itself. And then the characters in themselves and the evolution of those characters and where it's going. I think it's a testament to the book. It's got a lot going on.
Yeah. But so I think be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be back with more fucking Dalakar and Elhokar. We'll be fucking throwing champagne and cigars in everybody's fucking face.
I don't know who Dalakar is. You mean Elhokar?
Elhokar, yeah.
I really love the image of Dalinar, like you said, like on his knees, gasping for breath, and Elhokar just shoves a cigar in his mouth and sprays his face with champagne. We did it! Or, I did it. Join me, brother. We slayed the vicious beast.
Dalinar like takes the helm off and is gasping for air, and then Elhokar fucking smokes him in the eye with the fucking cork.
Just all grins and shit.
We did it! Like, you son of a bitch.
People dead on the ground, people dying, and then he's shoving cigar smoke right in their face.
Basically, they should treat Dalinar like O.J. Simpson in Lethal Weapon, or Naked Gun. In Naked Gun with what's the main fucking character?
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen's Elhokar, and then Dalinar's O.J. Simpson. Where in that movie, O.J. Simpson's constantly like getting run over by cars, and everything that Leslie Nielsen always doing shit that ends up getting fucking O.J. Simpson fucking just mangled.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Maybe I'll see that again.
I wonder why OJ's not been in movies since then.
Yeah, he was a star.
Yeah.
What was that's a big drop off.
He had a promising career. I wonder what's happened to him. Wonder what he's been up to.
Yeah, those Hertz commercials. He had tons of commercials.
He was all over the place, and then just nowhere. He's just nowhere to be seen all of a sudden. I wonder what happened.
So I know Cuba Gooding Jr. played him. Did he? Was it slanderous? Is that what happened? Didn't come out well.
I don't know. I didn't even know he played him.
Yeah, he played him on like a show about OJ. Yeah.
About his football career.
Yes, it's all about his football career.
He winning the Heisman.
Yeah, he won the Heisman. Yeah, played for the Bills. Yeah, he was killing it.
2,000 yards. First guy at 2,000 yards. He was killing it. Dude was killing it.
So I was going to say, you want to emphasize that. Dude he is killing it. What happened?
Dude, just killing it. Everything he did. Killed it.
Oh, the juice. There's another guy. He got the juice.
Yeah.
Right? A little too much juice, perhaps.
Juice is loose. But yeah, that'll do it for this week. We'll be back in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Peace out.
Yep.